The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Yes, indeedy, less is always more. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Every one of them.
Sit down. Don't throw your popcorn. Engage in the media the way you're supposed to. You are listening to a religion broadcasting.
Let's not emulate chimpanzees throwing their feces around.
Premier podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, Robert Winfrey. Yay!
Yay. Mark, I don't know how to do what we're going to do tonight. Can I just be honest about this first before we get into this?
You can always be honest with me.
I hated this movie. Hated.
Okay.
Absolutely loathed. It's not quite as bad as Snow White for me, but I hated it.
Okay.
But I am not going to sit here and pretend that I don't understand exactly why the audience this was aimed at loves the crap out of it. I don't know how to balance those two things.
Well, it is definitely a classic example of this is a poorly made movie, but that doesn't mean there are elements of the population that shouldn't enjoy it. I think we can also say that it is nice to see Hollywood get a win. It is nice to see.
I don't have a rooting interest in that respect. When we get to it, like I do want to talk about the fact that this movie doesn't feel like everybody throwing a massive bitch fit about being assigned to an IP project.
Well, here I'll say it nicer for you because I was about to say it and you jumped the line. Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake it all the time. Robert Winfrey shakes his tushy. He shakes it all the time. Work, 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 Robert Winfrey. Work it all the time. Next time you interrupt me, I'm going to sing again. Anyway, it is.
That's supposed to be a threat?
It might be. It's nice to see a movie not hate its audience. I feel like I haven't seen a big movie like this, a big IP movie, not hate its audience in a really long time. What I was also going to say is, it's not so much that I have a rooting interest in Hollywood, it's nice to see a studio get a win when they do the right thing. If you do the right, look, a saying Spike Lee tells us, always do the right thing. When you do the right thing, when you engage with a property in a way that is rewarding for the fan base, you should be rewarded. So I'm happy, and we'll talk about it more at length. I'm happy the Minecraft movie did well. I'm happy it's probably going to be one of the highest earners of the year. It deserves it. Not necessarily for the craft elements. The craft elements are poop. But because it gave the people what they want and the people responded appropriately. And given the fact that there's been so little of that in the past decade, I'll take some as I can get them. But let me ask you a question. More importantly, really the most important thing. Did you see The Phantom Menace in theater?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember the first time? I don't know if this happened in your theater or when you saw it. I saw it twice opening night. I saw it during the day and I saw it in the evening. I was in California at the time, and I actually saw it in Hollywood. I saw it at Universal City Walk. The second time around at night. The first time R2-D2 makes his appearance on screen, people clapped. They were like, yay! And that was it. We were done. Do you remember a few years ago when you and I and Gavin reviewed Spider-Man No Way Home, and I did a bit about people clapping like seals.
Yep.
But if you'll recall, my frustration was the continued clapping at things that they knew were going to be in the movie. Like, I remember, as I've watched the clip a number of times, because I think me screaming and Jonas go to bed is hilarious as I'm shaking him. What can I say? I find myself funny. But my
Well, somebody
argument,
has to, right?
indeed. My argument at the time wasn't so much the clapping as it was like when Daredevil shows up. Well, you don't know Daredevil's in the movie until it happens, and so, oh my gosh, Daredevil, Netflix, synergy, continuity, amazing. Everyone claps. When the Green Goblin showed up, who was, or rather, when Dr. Octopus shows up, who's prominently featured on the poster and in the trailer, I was like, why are we clapping for this? When the the Green Goblin showed up, I was like, you can kind of see the pumpkin bomb. We know he's in the movie. I think it had been already spoiled by that point. I'm like, why are we cheering for this?
Yep.
We didn't know Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were going to be in the movie. So when they showed up, I could understand the clapping. The point of it is that it didn't cause a mosh pit to break out. People like, yay, the thing we like, we saw the thing, and great. Avengers Endgame, when Captain America finally gets to say Avengers Assemble, the whole theater, hooray! And then we watch the movie. I don't mind people reacting to something that's happening on screen. I think, there are certain moments. Well, I have argued in the past this is not a live performance. They can't hear you. I don't know why you're showing live. I don't know why you're showing appropriation.
I've heard that argument before. My brother makes it all the time. He tends to limit it to how you react after the movie. Like, don't clap over the credits.
But look, if it evokes an emotional reaction and you're having kind of a crowd moment, fine. The once in a while that it happens, Judge Radledge will allow it. There are limits to this sort of thing. And, it's funny. My son, Jonas, he walked up to me and he said, he raised his fist at me like he wanted to fight. Like he was a little Notre Dame fighting Irish. He raised his fist at me and he leaned in and I was like, you ready to one fucking go? I'm like, I'll fucking knock you right out. I'll send you to your mother in a box. He was like, Flint and Steel. I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is. He was like, it's from the Minecraft movie. And he went outside to go do what chore I'd asked him to do. And he comes back in and he looks at me and I looked at him and we locked eyes and he said, chicken jockey? And I don't know if he was having a stroke, if he had developed a sort of tick. He mumbled something in a weird voice. I don't know what you're saying. He's like,
begin speaking in tongues like you do.
He said chicken jockey, and I went, are you sick, son? Do you need me to take you to the hospital? And he went Flint and Steel, and I'm like, oh, he's doing stuff from this Minecraft movie. Okay, I get that. Look, this is like after I saw Piece by Piece, and I walked around telling everyone that I was born in the mud. Because that's a line from the movie. And we all do this. We all kind of do little bits of dialogue. But he kept doing it. It's fine. He's an 11-year-old boy almost.
You should be quoting Monty Python and the Holy Grail by this point instead of nonsense chicken memes.
My point is we all have a thing that we quote. Many things we quote. I have a t-shirt that says I speak fluent movie quotes.
That is a language you speak.
Yeah. So this is all fine. We went to the movie, his sister and I. We sat down and he looked at me and I looked at him and he said, Flint and Steel. And I'm like, all right. And later in the movie,
threaten him to like, you know what? You really got to knock this off.
No, because he is my son and he is me and I am a scotch. So I get it. And, life is to be enjoyed, Robert, despite contrary opinions. Life is to be enjoyed. So anyway, the movie starts. He shuts the fuck up, as all good boys should do. And then Jack Black says it in the movie. He says, Flint and Steel. And he looked at me and he does the Leonardo DiCaprio thing. He's like,
Eh? Eh?
That was it. That was his whole reaction to it. And I laughed because he's funny. And the bit's funny. Later on, he's not your son. I can laugh at these things. These things are funny to me.
Okay.
Later on, Jason Momoa gets in a wrestling ring, and he fights what appears to be a small Frankenstein baby on a blocky chicken, and he says the phrase "chicken jockey." And Jonas does Leonardo DiCaprio again. He's like, it's like he's elbowing me. He's like, he said the thing, and I'm like, that's great. Jonas.
The thing means nothing to me, son. Just shut up.
That was it. That was his whole reaction. The theater around me seemed to have gotten a bigger kick out of that than that was ever going to register with me. In my theater on a Sunday afternoon, the reactions to the movie were mostly appropriate. People laughed, people cried, people hurled. The kids around me definitely responded to the movie positively. I heard a couple of like people I had a full theater on like a 12:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. The kids, like I said, there were some adults kind of mumbling to themselves, some kids that were kind of talking, but like that tends to happen in kids' movies that are full. Kids, for the most part, don't know when to shut up.
But you know what you're getting into when you watch one of those under those circumstances.
Yeah, and I can kind of tune it out. It wasn't that bad. But that was my theater experience. I wake up this morning, and there's a news item, and I'm going to put this on screen. And this might not move you in a way, but it really bothered me, and it was something that I wanted to talk about.
Okay?
Alrighty. Because I do think it's worth discussing on kind of a macro level. This comes from Comic Book Resources. A Minecraft
website of dubious quality in general, but for the sake of this one, we'll let it go.
Yeah, their opinion on movies and the incessant shilling is not what's being discussed here. The headline reads: A Minecraft movie. Cops remove kids from theater for chicken jockey scene reaction in viral video. A Minecraft movie may be #1 at the box office this weekend, but for some kids at a screening posted to social media, the weekend meant being escorted out of a movie theater by the police. The chicken jockey scene proved to be a point of excitement for the young people at a screening shown in a 40-second clip online. Discussing Film X posted the clip here. Let me stop sharing it so I can share the actual clip here. So this is what's currently on, formerly known as Twitter. Where does it go? Okay. All right. So here it is. This is the clip in question. And when I saw it, again, Phantom Menace, the new Star Wars movies, Avengers Endgame. I have been to see some movies. Not exactly the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but here we go. This is what we're dealing with in the world right now.
Chicken jockey. Okay, Stitch.
No.
Here's the problem.
Oh, there's a lot of problems.
That's not an isolated incident.
Also true.
So the article goes on. Put this back up on screen. I used to not do stuff like this because it just wasn't smooth and that bothered me. And then I started watching other people do what we do, and get exponentially more views. And now I don't care anymore. Apparently, production can just be crap, and it's perfectly fine. As the kids are escorted from the theaters by cops and by other moviegoers, cell phones in hand, record their exit, singing "Na na na, hey hey, goodbye." Damn it! Oh my god!
I'm begging you to get an ad blocker.
I know. Son of a bitch. All right, I can't do this anymore. So anyway, I got something better here. Reports indicate that screenings of a Minecraft movie have been marked by disruptive behavior from younger audiences, leading to interventions by cinema staff and law enforcement.
Okay, so my youngest brother worked at our local movie theater for less than a year, but a number of months. Like, was there for a while. He avoided, I think, Avengers Endgame, but he was there for Beauty and the Beast, the live action.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about that like it was 9/11. Like not quite that dramatic, but like the lines of families, and if you're working concessions, that means kids, and we have the gimmicky, they've all got the gimmicky thing. Like, here, buy this thing. It's a small, it's an appropriate size popcorn. It's a drink. It's whatever. But you have to make those all individually. He made so many of those, and then occasionally, like, please come help clean up the aftermath of this catastrophe.
So anyway,
hang on. By all accounts, this is worse. The pictures from like theater workers showing the aftermath of this. It's bizarre. Like, you've got people desperately trying to engage in a quasi group activity, but they're all antisocial enough to just like not care about anything.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. And that's 2017. Look at where we are now.
I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this one.
Okay.
Like, theater workers are posting the aftermath of screenings of the Minecraft movie. It's
okay.
like,
hold that thought. In response, cinemas in the UK, such as Real and Cineworld, have implemented stricter monitoring and emphasized a zero-tolerance policy towards disruptive behavior, warning that violators may be ejected or face police involvement. Similarly, the Township Theater in Washington Township, New Jersey, introduced a policy requiring parents to accompany their children to screenings after incidents of vandalism and unacceptable behavior by unsupervised minors. These incidents have sparked debate among parents and moviegoers. Some view the enthusiastic reactions as a testament to the film's engagement with its audience. It's not. There's
not really.
There's a much worse explanation. While others consider such behavior disruptive and inconsiderate. Yeah, no shit. Overall, the film's releases highlighted differing expectations regarding cinema etiquette, and especially during youth-targeted movies. Here's what I want to say. When I had kids, I movie trained them from birth. Started with the drive-in. Okay? I mean, obviously, you don't take toddlers. You don't take infants. But when they got to be slightly older, to get them used to the movie-going experience, Melissa and I would take them to the drive-in. There was zero expectation that kids of a walking age were going to be able to engage with the movie in a way that was appropriate. They're fucking toddlers. Okay? And you should expect your children to be toddlers. So we will allow them they could run around a little bit. They can move around in the car. We were not disrupting other people. That's why we went to the drive-in. But we got them used to going to understand what the movies is like. And we could start to instill some degree of appropriate behavior so they would understand. But there are limits to this. Again, what's the word I'm looking for? Attention spans and such are not are not great when you're that age. When they got to be a little bit older, I would take them to age-appropriate movies, Pixar movies, Disney cartoons, etc. Things like How to Train Your Dragon or
sorry, I just had a shuddering premonition.
What's the other one that you hated? Angry Birds. I remember taking them to the Angry Birds movie. I remember these because we reviewed them.
Not care for the Angry Birds movie. No, that's true.
Kung Fu Panda. And again, manage your expectations, understand what age you're dealing with. You teach them you have to be quiet in the theater, but you're only going to get so much, and the attention spans are only going to go so far. You sit them down, you get them food, you set an expectation. Occasionally, Melissa or I would have to take them out of the theater because it was too much, or they had to pee, or whatever the case was. They got to be a little bit older, started taking them to more movies. Again, you start to reinforce, you have to be quiet in the movie theater. You can react, you can ask me a question, tell me if you go to the bathroom, but you can't be screaming and yelling. They're now 11 and 14, and they know how to act in a theater. This is how parenting works. And when I see articles like this, and the reason why I'm making such a big deal about it, and I can get off my soapbox after this, is this doesn't just feel like a lack of appropriate parenting for this generation. This feels like at least 2 generations of bad parenting. 2 generations.
Probably.
At least 2 generations of token children bearing. Look at this prize that I have. Look at this little dolly that I have that I dress up and I show everyone and then fucking neglect, while I do whatever. This to me feels
Look good for the Instagram reel, then go away.
I don't know how far back you want to go, and even if this predates the internet, but my parents are, I believe, boomers. They are in their 70s now.
Give or take. That's about
50.
that, yeah. There's a generation after the boomers, but before Gen X, and I forget. I think it's the silent generation is what they're referred to, but don't quote me on that.
Basically, you have boomers, Gen X, then millennials, I believe it is.
Generally, yeah. In broad swaths, that's how it breaks down.
And I have to assume this probably starts with millennial parents. And it really bothers me because we're not just seeing like antisocial, immature behavior in settings like this. Like, have you talked to a teacher lately? They can't manage their classrooms, and you can blame it somewhat on the effect of the lockdowns from COVID. But
it didn't help. But we're also 4 years removed from that at this point. Like,
right, this is 2 or 3 generations of not properly socializing your children, not letting them be around other kids in a way that teaches children to interact with each other appropriately. Between the helicopter, we're either overparenting or underparenting. It's like somewhere in the last 30 years or so, we lost sort of that middle ground appropriate parenting, where you're either lawnmower / helicopter parenting, that's overparenting, where kids can't function because everything is done for them or around them. So by the time they get to be adults, they're screaming, I have social anxiety and I'm just a baby. Meanwhile, they're 25, or abject neglect to where, the kids are growing up and becoming feral animals. And that's why this bothers me as much as it does, because like, if this is where we're at now, imagine where we're going to be in another generation. Like,
the divide is going to be very stark.
It's funny because we talk a lot on here around this back to what we talk about here, which is movies and the theatrical experience. We talk endlessly about we don't want movies to go away. How are we going to have movies if people don't know how to behave in them? Stuff leaves. Like, if you can't have places of social interaction, it's funny. I've been watching a lot of these like collection of TikTok videos that are now on, which my son begged me not to be one of those people. I was like, I could do this. I could take collections of TikTok, do minor bridging, narration, and post it as my own content. And he was like, please, Father, please, don't be that guy. There's my kids trying to keep me on the moral side of the fence.
There's no morality in social media.
So anyway, one of the big things I saw today was his collections of TikTok videos of women lamenting that men have left the gym. Why did men leave the gym?
Because we got sick of you making videos and then publicly shaming us for glancing your direction every now and then when you're wearing shorts pulled up to your crotch.
Well, it doesn't matter what they're wearing. You look around. I tend to look around when I'm doing anything. Yeah. You might just look in a woman's direction. You might be staring at her, but you're probably thinking, yum, yum, bumblebee, bumblebee, tuna. God knows I am half the time. Or
That makes sense as your inner monologue, believe it or not.
it absolutely does. I will absolutely stare dead on like I'm gonna murder somebody, and all the time it's going yum yum mumblebee bumblebee tuna. Anyway, but and then the woman thinks you're a stalker. So the guys have just fucking given up apparently en masse.
Well,
And
here's the thing. It's one thing
Mhm.
for a woman to think you're a bit of a creep.
hmm
Guys, we can live with that. I'm going to speak for men here, okay?
Okay.
I don't do this very often, but Mark, if I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong.
You know I will.
Most of us, I dare say all of us, can live with a woman giving us a disgusted look or
Mhm.
thinking we're a little bit weird.
Oh god, if we even
Because,
bother to acknowledge it at all.
yeah, because we had one weird interaction. I can live with that.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it's the gym when, I'm doubled over after a hard cardio session and your butt is in my eye line.
Yeah.
If you think I'm staring at you, even if I'm not, I don't care that much. Like I'm probably never going to see you again. If you want to actually talk and say like, "Hey, are you staring at me?" No, I'm not really, but if you want me to turn around, I will.
Staring at you, I don't even know where I am right now.
Yeah, like I'm very lightheaded. Oxygen's not getting up here at the moment. Just give me a minute. But we can have that conversation briefly, and if you go away from it going, you know what, I don't care much for that guy. If I come away from it going, you know what, whatever, I don't care much for you. You work out over there, I work out over here. We probably don't overlap each other ever again. It's not a big deal, believe it or not. Humans do this all the time. When you've decided to video this entire exchange, post it on all your social media accounts and go, this guy is the creepiest person that ever lived. And then because this is what we do, you get a bunch of likes. It goes kind of viral, and suddenly I'm
Out of a job.
posted everywhere. Like, that's where we kind of draw the line. Like, again, if you think I'm weird or you're like, you know what, work out on the other side of the gym from me, okay. We don't care.
So now we've created a culture where men and women can't fucking interact with each other in public.
Pretty much.
Lest somebody take the interaction as, offensive and dangerous and the worst thing ever, and then have to take it to other further extremes. We're now passing this on to our children, who can't fucking behave either in public. So everyone's like worried about our current, I'm going to say this nicely, our current financial predicament that we're in and the looming doom just ahead of us, which will probably be followed by a sunrise and prosperity. But hey,
it's usually
cyclical economic history is hard for people.
It's almost like people can't track patterns, despite that being one of the very few things the human brain is good at. But hey, here we are.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about, proven historical economic patterns. Anywho, this is why economies collapse. You don't have people engaging in the economy because they're too afraid to fucking leave the house, or they're incapable of leaving the house because everything is an affront. Everyone misbehaves. No one can interact with each other. So you just order everything off of Amazon and never leave. Fantastic. And then movie theaters collapse. It's funny. I'm originally from Massapequa, Long Island, and somebody put up a TikTok of the Sunrise Mall. The Sunrise Mall used to be a booming place of commerce and social interaction. It was where kids would ride their bikes in the Massapequa Park, Seaford, Farmingdale area, for all of you Long Islanders. And
some very specific information going on there.
And congregate at this mall. There were fast food places. There were comic book stores. There were regular bookstores. There were toy stores. There were places, there was a movie theater. There were places for kids to go and interact in a fairly safe environment. And for a variety of happenstance, changes in technology, clearly changes in social behavior, the post was that the Sunrise Mall is basically vacant. This is part of a bigger trend known as the mall apocalypse, where basically these places of social interaction and commerce have all collapsed into the ground because we're not supporting them anymore for one reason or another.
There's a YouTube channel that's all about like exploring dead or dying malls. That actually goes into a little bit of history about them too, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, there's one that I'm not going to claim this was the last mall built in the United States, okay? Let me just preface this with that. But I vividly remember when the nearest mall to me, it's actually the movie theater I still go to because it's closest. Well, it's second closest, but the one that's like marginally closer doesn't have stadium seating, and I can't. I'm not gonna put up with that. So, but I have preferences. Okay,
Okay.
sue me.
I want to get to the end of this so we can move on.
But I remember when that mall opened up.
Mhm.
It was a big deal that it was getting built because before that, the closest one was about a 15-minute drive. That's if you're in the city. I wasn't in the city. I was actually, I grew up in the mountains, but that's not a joke. I was actually up a mountain canyon, and I was 10 miles from the nearest grocery store. It was a good time. There's a whole community up there. It wasn't like isolated.
Robert!
I'm moving on. But I remember that mall opening. And it was kind of a big deal. And you used to go there, and it was like getting around was kind of difficult. Like, you're old enough to remember this, Mark. Malls used to be like packed.
Yeah,
like there were.
I just said that.
Yeah, but I go to this one now because again, it's the theater I prefer to go to as a general rule. And like, you can count almost on like your hands how many people are kind of around this big space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had to rent out one of their former anchor store locations. It's a Target now. Like, it's actually kind of like walled off from the rest of the mall, but that segment is a Target with exterior access. I might have interior. I have to go over there and double check that, but like that's what we're doing with these giant retail spaces.
Right.
These big investments of time, money, and structure.
So to get back to the original point, I took my parenting job seriously. Despite what you or anyone else thinks of my parenting, I have always taken my job as a parent to be my first and foremost, most important job that I have. And I've always been there with my kids, showing them appropriate behavior. I understand, some of what I do may seem odd to people, but doesn't remove the fact that I was there showing them how to behave. They picked up on it, and now my two kids were probably the most behaved children in the fucking theater, and most of the time have been, and are kind of repelled by other kids who don't know how to behave in public. They struggle kind of in school because they are surrounded by kids their own age who act like animals and toddlers. And they look at me and they say, "Father, but why?" And I go, tune into the Minecraft podcast. I'll talk about it. But my point is,
showing your podcast to your kids.
My point is to round this out, and then we'll move on to the plot. This whole thing really bothers me because it's indicative of a bigger problem. We are quickly the social fabric that binds us all together is eroding fast. It is unraveling at rapid speeds. Adults can't be around each other. Children can't be around each other. Adults don't want to be around children. Children don't want to be around adults. Like, how many more times do we have to engage in Lord of the Flies behavior before the actual Lord of the Flies happens to us?
You're aware of the supreme irony of Lord of the Flies, right?
What's that?
That's actually happened a couple of times where like groups of boys wind up isolated on islands.
Mm-hmm.
They never devolve into Lord of the Flies. They actually always do form like moderately functioning groups.
I can't remember. There was something I remember. It was, I don't know if it was like Family Guy or something, where it was like we removed all the women, and yes, and then the men got along just fine. Everything was functional. But my point
well, in fairness, I only bring that up because Lord of the Flies is expressly just a bunch of boys. Like,
no, I understand that, but when I say Lord of the Flies, I think people know what I'm talking about. That might now be a lost reference on people. Who the fuck knows?
People don't read anymore, Mark.
Another thing we've lost is culture.
How many years have you got on this podcast and said books are for burning?
I said it ironically. I didn't mean it to be our mantra.
Mark, you and I have both said for a while now we're living like a post-irony world. People can't handle it. They don't know what to do with it.
So that just reading these articles about and watching that video, and if it's not a canary in the coal mine, we're too far. The canary in the coal mine was further back than that. We're now well into the coal mine, and it's collapsing all around us. That makes me sad because again, we're not going to have this is the point. If we can't socialize amongst each other, we're going to lose those places in the economy that allow for socialization. That's theaters, bars, playhouses, gyms. Eventually schools. We're going to get to a point where it's going to be only private schools or like charter or like magnet type schools. But like the average warehouse public school that's been around since, over 100 years now, gone. And those kids will all be virtual learning. And we're going to create the WALL-E generation. Remember WALL-E? Fat people running around in floating scooters?
You know what, Mark? These days, I think WALL-E might have been too optimistic.
Speaking of too optimistic, hit me with that sad plot synopsis.
So we open with Jack Black doing narration, because of course we do. He plays Steve. Please clap. Not you. Just making a joke.
I'm like, hey, this is prime basketball and soda drinking time.
So he plays Steve, and from the time he was a child, he yearned for the mines. I can make these references, and people are supposed to do the Pavlov's dog thing. Anyway, as a small child, he wanted to be a miner when he was a miner. Bad wordplay, I apologize. He deferred his dream, and a dream deferred is a dream denied. So eventually, when he got sick of selling doorknobs, apparently what he really did, he returned to the mines, and he dug away, and he found a portal to a magical world, the Minecraft world, the overworld. And he got to be a big fat hero. And then he got captured by a bunch of pig monsters when he went through another portal. And then he sent his pet wolf back to the real world with the magical device. It's an orb that's actually a cube. And the thing it goes into that makes the portals work. Because the evil pig monsters want to use this to conquer the overworld and to strip mine it for all of its gold. Then we flash forward a number of years to brother and sister who move into this town where he used to be, and Jason Momoa doing a bad Rockers impression. I don't know if he wants to be Ricky Morton or the other one, but...
You mean the Rock and Roll Express? Because the Rockers
Sure.
were...
Oh, yeah. I half wanted to do a Marty Jannetty joke, but I can't say Jack Black is Shawn Michaels under any circumstances, and that's kind of where that would have led us to. Anyway. So Jason Momoa is a sad guy who used to be a video game champion in the 80s, now runs a failing game store, kind of a loser. But because he's Jason Momoa, he also has to be buff.
You know what's weird?
A lot of this.
Pixels. The movie Pixels. The Adam Sandler movie Pixels.
I tried to block that from my memory, but thank you.
You're welcome. Managed to handle that character 100% better than this one did. That character archetype of the aged, former glory video game player.
You're not entirely wrong.
I'm not wrong at all. You just don't want to say anything good about Pixels.
Also true.
Keep going.
But Jason Momoa buys a storage unit thinking there's a rare video game in there, a video game console. Turns out it's just a rare video game console box. But this is the unit that houses the magical doohickey that was found, and then the younger kid, whose name I can't remember, and I don't really care to look it up to double check. He's worried about making friends like you do when you move to Chugless, Idaho. So it's written by 9-year-olds. This kid is sent to make friends with tater tot breakfast pizza. I feel my brain shrinking as I continue to say these things. And like all minors, like all small children, he decides to stop into a random video game store and talk with the mulleted Jason Momoa. before going to school. He goes to school. He tries to build a rocket pack. Some bullies sabotage it. It then flies like a guided missile into the mascot statue for the local potato chip factory. This is 9/11 for this town, I assume. That's kind of where we're going with this. His sister's over there trying to help save she's trying to do the social media management for this potato chip company. The sum total of her advice we get is maybe don't call your new branded chips salt sacks.
Hang on.
He then calls Jason Momoa to bail him out of problems with his principal, Jennifer Coolidge, a vice principal, who got the only laughs from the other people in my screening. I was there with like 2 other people who were about 2 rows behind me, and Jennifer Coolidge's random rants just tickled them pink, apparently.
People like Jennifer Coolidge. She gets a lot of work.
I don't understand it, but okay.
Okay, well, you're not from this planet, but,
Hey.
mortals tend to like Jennifer Coolidge. She's in everything because people enjoy her.
I assure you my mortality is not in question.
Okay.
So he calls Jason Momoa to bail him out rather than call his sister. And while hanging out with Jason Momoa, he gets the magic doohickey, puts it in the other magic doohickey, and starts being dragged by this glowing cube, the Tesseract, towards the mines. And his sister can't find him and freaks out and calls their realtor. Like you do.
Playing the character DEI higher.
Yeah, pretty much. You could have cut that character entirely and nothing of value would have been lost.
Only the funding for the movie.
Nothing of value would have been lost. So they all go to the mines. They all get dragged through the magic portal. They wind up in the overworld. They're attacked by the zombies. They're saved by Steve because somehow the pigs realize that the magic doohickey has returned to the overworld, and she's kept Steve in captivity for a while, sends him to get it, threatens to kill his wolf, which she doesn't have, but he doesn't know that, if he doesn't bring the orb to her. So Steve shows up and saves them all from a bunch of zombies. The sun comes up and they all burst into flames and then evaporate into nothingness, like my will to live during this film. It turns out during the attack, they broke the doohickey that the other doohickey goes into, and now they have to get it, and it exists only in this woodland mansion. So we head over to a village. There's a stupid subplot where one of these villagers wanders into the real world and becomes enthralled with Jennifer Coolidge. And they have a romantic dinner, and we cut back to that way too often. It's a thing we do in this movie. So they try to gear up. They learn some of the systems of Minecraft. Then the pigs attack, and our heroes are separated because Jason Momoa is slightly blackmailing Steve to take me to your stash of great treasure, because there's a lot of treasure to be found in this world. And he says, fine, I'll take you to all my diamonds. So there's a chase sequence. The 3 of them, this is Jason Momoa, Jack Black, and the kid, wind up in these mines where they get some diamonds for Jason Momoa, and the kid feels betrayed, like you do. They barely escape the big pig that is sent after them. The other 2 find this wolf from Jack Black named Dennis. The realtor tames him with bones because she has proficiency in animal handling. I don't know what
I assume this is a game thing that they kept doing.
It is. Like, that much I know, but... So they follow... She then says, like, go find Steve, and the wolf goes, all right. And they all follow the wolf. They all kind of get back together around the woodland mansion. The girls show up in a minute or 2 here. They break into the woodland mansion. The kid is able to find the thing they're after. There's a fight. This is where the chicken jockey happens.
Chicken jockey.
Please don't.
Flint and steel. See, I'm doing it to you.
So again, we get a big thing going on here, and they barely escape. They're then accosted by more pigs on the bridge. They threaten to blow it up. Jason Momoa throws Steve and the kid to safety, and then apparently blows up himself. Clearly, he is not actually dead. He will show up for our last act heroics. Everyone sort of reconvenes, but in the midst of this, the pigs get the doohickey. Oh no. They then go to the dark portal where they throw a sky laser to go along with their army of faceless goons because we're doing a Marvel. And the response...
exact same thought. Like, oh, good, we're back to blue lasers in the sky. Is it a friend that just won't die?
So then our heroes gear up because there's time for a training montage as the armies of the pigs assemble. They create a bunch of giant iron golems. There's a big fight. There's the army battles. Jason Momoa shows up for third act heroics, exactly like you expect him to. The good guys ultimately win, and they all decide to not stay in the magic world where they're almost invincible and can do all kinds of stuff. They all come back to the real world, which kind of sucks. And they make Jason Momoa's game store viable again through, I assume, just brute forcing a bunch of diamonds into it, because the best base for success in business is just having a billionaire best friend who will throw millions of dollars into your ventures. Ask Dana White. And the kid is like, yay, I've got friends now because I can make things and my creativity has been nurtured. And the sister stops being a social media manager, probably for the best, and becomes the world's worst self-defense instructor. More on that later. The realtor gets to stop being a realtor and just has a zoo, including Dennis.
Sure.
And Jack Black is just Jack Black. He sings. And then in a post-credit scene, he goes to his old house where he meets another Minecraft character and the seals clap.
I had walked out by that point. When Jennifer
I
Coolidge
saw
was
it
still...
online. I did not stick around to watch it.
Yeah, when Jennifer Coolidge started talking about the one Minecraft NPC in the post-credit scene, I'm like, I can't anymore. I'm done. I want to pee.
Oh, but then he gets the voice. You actually get to hear the villagers speak.
I heard it as I walked out, and I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay. I want to say this before I do my next thing. I don't hate this movie. I like the theme of the movie. I like the message of it, which is something that I preach often. And when the opposite is happening, it irritates me down to the bones. It is good and godly and a thing we should be doing and pushing ourselves to try to create. It is easy, low-hanging fruit, lazy, maybe even sometimes evil to destroy and tear down and complain and criticize where there is no constructiveness about it. You're just criticizing because you're an unbearably negative person. I like the fact.
Hey.
I didn't say you.
Yeah, sure you did.
If the shoe fits, Cinderella. Listen, the point that I was trying to get at was I like the fact that the movie basically says, to be creative is good and we should nurture these things. And the real world doesn't always foster that. But it's certainly something we should be striving for. Great. Good message of the movie. Great thing for your kids here. Certainly it would be nice for some adults to hear that as well. So in terms of theme, I like that part of the movie. But then Robert's going to yell at me, themes are not enough. You're right, themes are not enough. It's certainly not enough to carry this movie. So
how do I live in your head like that? I was not going to say that, but the version of me that lives on your shoulder is like mostly my worst attributes.
Two things. One, you have said that. I believe the exact phrase you said on a podcast, this very podcast, was something along the lines of "fuck you, that's not enough." In a conversation about how themes are not enough to elevate your movie. So,
I was not going to interrupt you to yell at you that line.
It's fair. So, much like Mickey 17, I had thoughts about this movie, and I needed to organize my thoughts before we came on tonight because there's part of me that likes this movie because of the themes, because it followed traditional movie structure. There were elements of it that reminded me of the 80s adventure movies that I grew up with. And I think these are tried and true formulas that still continue to work. Not every movie has to be the fucking brutalist. So, like,
In fact, we'd like fewer of those, please.
it's kind of like what I said about A Working Man, and before that, Hot Frosty. When a movie does exactly what it was designed to do, no more, no less, it's hard for me to overly criticize it. Now, this is not a great what am I looking for? This was not a great movie in terms of craft, how it's made, and there's definitely things to pick at, and I will pick at them in just a moment. But I did want to give it credit for being a crowd-pleasing, serviceable 80s style action adventure. More to the point, and I was like, I have all of these thoughts. I want to organize them before I go on the show with Robert tonight so that I sound halfway intelligent. So I said to ChatGPT, I said, Fancy, the new Minecraft movie feels like what if you told ChatGPT to combine the Lego movie, The Goonies, and The Wizard of Oz into one movie script featuring elements of the Minecraft game and aim it for elementary school age boys. And ChatGPT said, this is where I get all my validation from these days, by the way.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
I have no use for human interaction.
And how did we open this show, Mark?
No. I give up. The rest of you need to fix yourselves. I'm done.
Okay, and that is in no small part how we got where we are. Exemplar of the current problem, Mr. Radulich.
Do as I say, not as I do. Anyway, the ChatGPT validation machine said, that's alarmingly accurate. Honestly, the vibe is absolutely, hey, ChatGPT, write a movie that combines the Lego movie, The Goonies, The Wizard of Oz, but make it set to Minecraft universe and target 8 to 11-year-old boys who let's go at YouTube thumbnails. It's something I've actually seen my son do. You can practically hear the executive notes. Make sure there's a funny pig. You need a YouTube cameo or 3. And
there were more than 3.
Let Jason Momoa say something inspirational, but in a way kids will meme. So yeah, you nailed it. It's basically algorithmic storytelling with a Minecraft texture pack slapped on. But depending on how self-aware it is, it might still be a fun ride. If they asked me if I saw it, I said yes, I saw it, and that was my takeaway. So I wrote this. I said the theme was about how being creative is good, destruction is bad, a la the Lego movie. The magical land, aka Minecraft world, is Oz, and it features yet a creative kid who gets bullied for it, and a mismatched group of adventurers: Jack Black, the guy lost in the Minecraft world; Jason Momoa, the loser ex-gamer who finds redemption; the sister who learns to love her brother's creativity; and the comedy black woman, which is what she was. And it said, dude, because I've trained it, dude, that is textbook AI-generated screenplay structure. You just described the exact output of someone prompting, write a heartwarming, kid-friendly adventure about the value of creativity versus destruction set in the Minecraft world with an ensemble cast featuring diverse, marketable personalities and teachable family moments. So then it asked me, it wrote more, but I don't really feel a need to write that. It asked me another question, and I said, I laughed at times, which is true. Other times, I impatiently needed it to be over so I could pee. It was nice to see a movie that didn't hate its fan base for the first time in 10 years. And so the ChatGPT goes, that's a fantastically honest review. Some laughs, needed to pee, didn't feel like it hated me. Put that on the damn poster. So then it says,
hey, your ChatGPT's trying a little too hard there.
Okay. I don't need to read the rest of this, but I wanted to share. That was most of my thoughts about this in terms of why this worked and why it was appealing and basically what it was going for, which I think it largely achieved. They asked nothing of Jack Black. They said, hey, Jack Black,
be as Jack Black as possible.
Do the same character you did in Dear Santa, Jumanji, School of Rock. You know, do your high fidelity character, but on 20 on a 10-point scale. Like they said, give us the Jack Black experience, and he said, you got it, boss. they said to Jason Momoa, "Hey, can you do Marty Jannetty from the WWE?" and he went, "Who?" And they were like, "Just be like an aging rocker video game guy, but be as unoffensive and
Be as inoffensive and unself-aware as possible.
yeah." And he was like, "I can do that. I can achieve this." He's like, "We kind of want your character that you played from the last Fast and the Furious movie, but not menacing in any way. Like, if
And a little bit less gay.
Like, pretend you're at a gym and you're surrounded by women. Be that character in that environment all the time." And he went, "Oh God, okay, you got it." And then they threw a dart and hit a kid that looked like Screech, and they got a cute girl, and they said, "All right, here's our point of view children characters for the children in the audience to project onto." And then they're like, which fat black actor or actress isn't working right now that we can bring into this for laughs? And they threw a dart and hit the chick from Orange is the New Black. I'm glad she got work. She's a great actress.
Isn't she also in Peacemaker, or is that a different actress?
Ooh, gosh, they're all starting to run together now, because there's her, and then there's the same chick from
I will
Only Murders in the Building, who I keep confusing the two of them. So anyway,
this is Danielle Brooks.
Brooks, yes, Danielle Brooks.
Mostly known for Orange is the New Black.
That is correct.
Filmography.
I think you're right about her being in Peacemaker.
Yeah, she's in Peacemaker.
Yeah, she has kind of carved out a niche of being kind of comedy relief. That's the term I couldn't remember. Kind of comedy relief black woman in a tracksuit, because that's kind of what she does now. Anyway, the CGI in this movie is ass, and that's going some, considering it's coming from me. But I don't know how purposeful that was, considering this is kind of supposed to look like a video game. A lot of the stuff they do with Jack Black, especially as he's explaining the world of Minecraft, looks like someone's YouTube video. Like,
bad.
It looks
mediocre YouTube video.
Yeah, it's like Photoshop editing. The story is boilerplate. There's a thingy. There's a MacGuffin. The bad guys want the MacGuffin to rule the world. The good guys have to stop them. Battle of Pelennor Fields. We all know each other a little bit better now. Lobster. They honestly, this is one of those where this is a Mad Lib script, and they just filled in the nouns, pronouns, and verbs and shit. It's the same thing we've seen 1,000 times, which is why it works, by the way. I'm almost not condemning that, but I have to call it what it is.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you're like, but did you like it? I mean, for the most part, like I said, I was entertained. I laughed at times. Jack Black's not really my cup of tea. And Jason Momoa's shtick got tired after about 45 minutes, but the kid isn't terrible.
45 minutes, your tolerance for that is quite high.
I have to deal with a lot of terrible people, so my tolerance for that sort of thing has to be high. So it takes a lot to get me going. And after a while, I was like, all right, we get it. Speaking of all right, we get it. That was about it. I laughed, I cried, I hurled, I peed, and when it was over, I ran out of the theater. And then
if you did all those in the theater, I'd run out of there too.
And then my son said, "Chicken jockey," and I went home and I made a dinner that they did not appreciate.
Well, it wasn't chicken cooked in lava. How could they appreciate it after?
No, it was chicken cooked in pineapples, because someone left a can of pineapples behind after her departure, and I'm kind of doing I explained this to Harry last night. I'm kind of doing a Top Chef thing now, where I find an ingredient left behind that I'll never use and go, ChatGPT, my friend, my only friend, divine me a recipe using this ingredient, and they go, "You got it, boss." And this is how I fed my children for the past 6 months.
Well, I appreciate your lack of waste. You're making good with what you've got. You know what? That's commendable.
I am an efficient chef. All right. Now that I've made this uncomfortable, which is my job, Robert, what are your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, no. Okay, I have to do this in two parts. Let me start with the positive. In fairness to this film, start with the positive. It's a bit too long, but it's not. It's too long for me. It's not too long for the audience that it's going for. This thing's runtime is.
I'd say it was an efficient use of its runtime.
Man,
One thing I will say in the favor for the writing, they didn't stay
Okay.
too long on any one gag. This is not an example of they let their babies live that they should have killed.
Yeah, this has a runtime of 101 minutes.
Yeah.
It felt long to me because I hated this, but it's an efficient runtime for the film. So thumbs up to that. The audience this is intended for seems to love it. So you know what? You hit the bullseye there, and that needs to be said out loud and properly appreciated.
Absolutely.
As you mentioned, you and I have done so many reviews where the people involved clearly don't like what they're working on or don't know anything about it, such as Castlevania, which had only a tertiary relationship to the source material because Adi Shankar is kind of a hack. See also his Devil May Cry series on Netflix. Better yet, don't watch it. It's terrible. Hey, let's take the Devil May Cry series, and one of the first things we'll do is have America invade hell, turn demons into proxies for the Middle East, and we'll do the montage to American Idiot by Green Day. It's a real thing that happened, and Netflix gave that man a lot of money to do it.
Okay. Good to know.
But the people working on, a lot of the people working on, Wheel of Time, Rings of Power, we've done this a lot recently where everyone involved clearly doesn't care about the IP they've been assigned to. We don't care about Star Trek. We don't care about Star Wars. We don't care about the characters, the continuity, the fans, any of it. We have a story we want to tell. But because the business of Hollywood doesn't want to take any risks or try anything on new stuff, and because we're not actually talented enough to make a good pitch or a good movie out of our own ideas, we get a job working on this IP adaptation, and we ignore it, do our own thing, and then call the fans racist when they hate it. That's been the thing for how long now, Mark?
Let's see. When did Dark Feminism come out?
Oh, it's been a minute.
2018, maybe?
Before COVID.
Yeah,
right?
No, I know it was before COVID.
So 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Oh, God, it was 2019. Oi.
Okay.
Even worse.
So we lumped it in with bad year for that kind of a movie. Anyway, it's been that way for a while. This movie does not have that problem. I don't know if every one of the 8 script writers that got credit on this thing, because the list of written by is quite long. I don't know if they all genuinely wanted to do this or if somebody, like their children or an executive, actually held a gun to their head and said, do not screw this up. But there is nothing about this movie that makes me feel like the people working on it hated the IP, hated the fans, resented this, and would rather do their big serious think piece on, but what if, I don't even know anymore. I've run out of the what ifs on these people because they're all the same. But what if the clown was frowning instead of smiling? But what if the women were oppressed? But you just shut up. Just shut up, all of you. None of that is here. Not a single bit of that is present in this movie. It feels like something written or at least heavily consulted on by people who actually know the material they're working with, and I have to again give that a thumbs up because while I did not enjoy any of this, there is a feeling in it that does not alienate the audience, and God bless you for it. So, now that's the kudos, that's the deserved kudos. I'm happy to leave it there in a lot of respects. But because this is a movie review and I'm going to review the movie, I acknowledge the goodness. Here's my gripes. This is ugly as sin. You can see all the poor actors just like walking on the treadmill in front of the green screen a bunch of the times. It's nothing has any weight to it, physical weight. Nothing actually like interacts with itself because the whole thing is fake. It's all very, very, CGI. The characters don't really have arcs because they're not really characters. They're just kind of stand-ins to do things so the movie can happen. Hey, hang on.
The boy does.
Okay, he has a mild arc where he goes from a bit of setback to I'll never imagine again. Please, Jason Momoa, take my sketchbook as a token of my commitment to a life of drudgery and woe is me. Back around to, wait, Jason Momoa is a jerk, to I will be creative and create the world's first functioning jetpack and show all those people who show that one teacher. The one who said, don't you know what a still life is?
You cannot like the arc, or you can say it's flimsy, but it just acknowledge that it's there and move on, please.
It's, again, his sort of exists. Fair enough.
And Jason Momoa is redeemed. I went through all of this before. Jack Black was sort of driven, and I understand where Jack Black is coming from, driven out of the real world to live in Neverland. And then by the end of it decides, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to be an adult again and give up Neverland and go back to just being Peter and not Peter Pan. So, look, none of these are handled well, but they happened. So that happens. Jason Momoa was like, all right, I was a loser and I've lost faith in myself. I have faith in myself again and in friends. You want to say the girl has no arc? That one came out of fucking nowhere. They was just
neither of the female characters have arcs.
Yeah, no. The three males had an arc, flimsy as they may have been. The girls, none, zero. And what they gave them to sort of, it's kind of like, that's it. That's the girls' thing. It was something so that there aren't people like us complaining they had nothing at all. Go on.
So yeah, it's flimsy at best. The characters are broad to the extent that they're actually characters, which is debatable. Yeah, again, it's ugly. The narrative momentum is a little all over the place. Again, like the armies of the enemy are assembling. Great training montage time. Okay.
I kept hearing the montage song from Team America World Police. They're in a montage.
Yeah. It's not that there's nothing funny here. People seem to have laughed. I didn't, but my sense of humor is not at all what this movie is. And I'm happy to acknowledge that and just say, you know what? Some people seem to have found this amusing. Thumbs up. I didn't. This also feels a little bit like they didn't have enough material for the actual 90-minute movie, so we get the Jennifer Coolidge subplot.
Oh, yeah. I didn't talk about that, but I could see the tacks from where they tacked it on.
Those holes were not addressed well. Just thunk.
No. Yeah. It was almost like they shot the movie and they realized they were about 30 minutes short of a runtime that would get it into theaters. Like, oh no, this is short film length. Well, what else can we do with this? I don't know. Have Jennifer. Let's intimate Jennifer Coolidge as fucking one of the NPCs. That'll be funny. Okay. And there we had it, because that's the only explanation for why that's there.
Pretty much. You're not going to get any argument from me on that one.
That was a second unit director thing, and basically he was just like, hey, Jennifer Coolidge, be hot. Yeah, be hot for these green blocks that we're going to put in front of you. Okay.
Okay, if that's what passes for physical attractiveness in media these days.
No. Okay, I feel like we're somehow missing each other. Okay.
You said her direction was to be hot, and I'm like...
No, okay, let me try again. Take two. Hey, Jennifer Coolidge, we're going to stack 3 blocks in front of you. This will eventually be a person when we add it in post. I want you to be horny for it. Well, what is it? Is it an eggplant? Because I can be horny for an eggplant. No, Jennifer Coolidge, we don't care about your kinks. Not at the moment, at least. No, it's going to be a person. It looks like this. Ugh. Yeah, don't.
Looks a little bit like the Elephant Man.
Yeah, just look. Just pretend you're one of these girls on TikTok who can't get a boyfriend, and like this is your only hope. I got it. I have my motivation now, and that's what she did.
Pretty much, yeah. So that was a little bit painful and not in a good way.
I laughed because of how tacked on it was, and they kept going back to it because it was almost like its own other movie.
It really is like
no cohesion at all.
It's utterly unrelated to anything else, completely disconnected.
Yeah, and it was funny because on a meta level, I was laughing at that. I was like, wow, this is so bad. I can't stop from laughing.
There's nothing in the content that's actually making you laugh, but like when you look at it.
Content, that's the word I couldn't. Words are hard tonight. Content was the word I was looking for about 20 minutes ago. Content-wise, this is not a good movie. Got it.
And again, because I am not the target audience, because I get none of the references almost, this was painful. If you are not...
You should have gone with my son so he could Leonardo DiCaprio you the whole time.
How do you think that would have went?
As well as this podcast. Keep going.
Do you love your son, Mark?
Very much so, Robert.
Do you want to put him through going to a movie with me?
No. God, I can. You know what? I now know what my hell is. It's sitting between the two of you at a movie that never ends.
I would not bother you at a movie.
Both of you glaring looks at me. Oh God, I'm sorry. I didn't make the movie.
You don't know this, but I don't bother people at movies.
Okay.
Like ever. So yeah, again, it's ugly. It's really stupid. It's a little bit all over the place. It's overacted to the extent that there is acting. If you are into the internet memery of what this movie's aiming at, you'll have a good time. And Godspeed, party on, have a good time. If you're not, this is painful on the level of like dental fillings. I didn't hate this more than Snow White, but it's closer than I thought it'd be.
Can I go ahead and say I think it's a more cohesive and better made movie than Snow White for the following reason? For the same reason, it's also better than Dial of Destiny. For the same reason, it's also better than Brave New World. For the same reason, it's also better than every other movie we've criticized for not having the courage to see out their vision and being a Frankensteinian stitched together, muddled monster of a viewing experience. Whatever else you can say about Minecraft, it had a clear vision from beginning to end.
Pretty much.
It had a clear narrative from beginning to end. Whatever it had to say, it said it as clearly as it was gonna say it to the intended audience from beginning to end. And that's what makes it better than Snow White, Dial of Destiny, Brave New World, etc., etc., etc.
It has a much more singular vision, that's true. Whether you consider that to be a benefit or a drawback, all things considered, I leave up to the individual. Here's part of my problem with that my minor problem with that assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Put a gun to my head and tell me I have to rewatch either this movie or Brave New World, and I might actually choose Brave New World.
Okay. You and I disagree. I would much rather watch this than any of the movies that I said just now. This one at least made me feel like I went to a different place. The place was stupid and it felt fake, but at least I went there, as opposed to the movies that I just mentioned, which didn't take me anywhere, and these all felt like exercises in futility.
Okay, I hate to phrase it this way, but if this movie had bombed at the box office, would you be saying the same thing? Like, is the financial return on this that the studio getting influencing your perspective?
I'm going to allow that because you know me very well, and I think it's a fair question. I also have the wrong thing in here. Here we go.
So just again, in conclusion, there's a very stark line about into whether or not you're going to enjoy this movie or not. If you fall onto the side that this is aimed at and that will understand all the in references and everything, you'll have a really good time. This is made squarely for you to the exclusion of all other people.
All right.
If you're on the other side of it, again, this is painful. And this was painful.
All right. With that said, here comes lots of money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
I have done a poor job of making sure this happens. All right. On a budget of $150 million, this thing has made more money than most movies have made this year in their entire theatrical run.
A lot of them.
In their entire theatrical run. V for victory. You know, there are some people who don't know I have that clip or how loud it is. I'd probably just get the pants off them.
Decent chance.
And well deserved. But seriously, folks. As of April 6th, 2025, a Minecraft... okay, just in case you really don't know what just happened. So we have we have a bombing sound and we have a victory, like celebrating like this thing did well sound. That was the latter, not the former, obviously, because this thing made all kinds of money and is probably on track to do $1 billion. As of April 6, 2025, a Minecraft movie grossed $163 million in the US and Canada, more than Snow White did in 2 weeks. So let's put that out there.
Yep.
And $150.7 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $313.7 million. In the US and Canada, Minecraft was released on Side Hell of a Summer and was initially projected to gross $65-70 million from over 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend, with some estimates going as high as $80 million. It made $10.6 million from Thursday night previews, topping Five Nights at Freddy's, $10.3 million. Another example of when you give the fans of the IP what they want, you will be rewarded. $10.3 million for best total by a video game adaptation, and increasing weekend projections $80-100 million. Let me stop right there. My son said a little ways back, I hate what's happening with these Disney movies because when they do well, they take the wrong lessons and we get more of this slop. He was 10 at the time. And, you know, instead of what the right lessons should be, and we're going to get Warner Brothers needed a win. Warner Brothers has not had a good win for quite some time. They've had some struggles these past couple of years.
Can't imagine why.
Nothing working out at DC, the new Harry Potter-ish movies not doing well.
Yeah, they're turning that into a series for Max, presumably, and boy, is that casting process not going well.
Yeah, apparently they never got the memo. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. My point is, Warner Brothers really needed a big win, and they finally got one with this. But they're going to take the wrong lesson from it, which is, okay, video game movies make money. Okay, not all of them, and they still have to be made well. You can't just throw any slop out there and expect this kind of a reaction.
I don't know. This is just any other slop, and it is getting a good reaction. So
no, it's not.
It is, Mark. Hang on. This is slop content.
No, it is. But it was specifically tailored for the intended audience. It was fulfilling people who played the game what they wanted out of it. It's being compared to Super Mario for the same reason.
Okay.
That people who were fans of the Super Mario game like the Super Mario to the tune of $1 billion, like the movie because it was fulfilling for those who played the game. Same thing here with Minecraft. That is the only lesson to take from this. Not just video game movies, but you have to do a video game movie that the fans will appreciate by doing as much of the video game as possible.
Yep, that would be the lesson to take, but because WB has like half a brain, they only get half the lesson, which is video game movies. That's where they stop. Instead of that are made for fans, make a lot of money. That middle portion, that very important middle portion that makes everything else work, not there. Not present for them.
After making $58 million on its first day, estimates were again revised up for the first time in like 100 years,
No
to
kidding.
135 to 150 million. It ended up debuting with over 157 million domestically and 301 million globally its opening weekend, surpassing the Super Mario Brothers movies, which, by the way, made $1 billion. So again, which featured Black as the highest grossing opening weekend for a movie based on a video game. Yeah, the other thing they're going to take away from this is apparently only Jack Black movies make money. So prepare for a lot more Jack fucking Black. Real quick, and I shared this in our group chat because I was curious about it. The Minecraft movie pulled in 300. This is what I wrote to ChatGPT earlier today. The Minecraft movie pulled in 301 million worldwide in its opening weekend. Look through all the major movies released in 2025 and look at the entire theatrical runs and list their worldwide gross so I can compare the entirety of worldwide grosses for every movie released up to this point versus the single weekend for Minecraft. And
this is actually easier to do without the AI because the AI is probably going to screw it up.
So what it wrote back was, as of April 7th, here's a list of the top 30 highest grossing films released in 2025 along with their worldwide grosses. Minecraft is currently at number 3 behind Ninja 2 and Captain America Brave New World.
That's going to change next week.
The next highest grossing was Snow White at 168, Dogman at 134, Bridget Jones at 129, Mickey 17 at 122, Boney Bear's Future Reborn at 101. And then, again, these are movies that have been out for a while, which is why I did this experiment. But we've got like The Monkey at 64, Nosferatu at 47, A Working Man just came out, but still 7. Novocaines. Okay, it made more than that. All right, so yeah.
Again, there's a better way to do this than asking the AI because the AI is not good about comparative analytics.
Yeah. All right, so that's where we are. Wild success. So as for the domestic weekend, it was obviously the number 1 movie in the world by a long stretch at 162.
Country Mile.
Yeah. Working Man fell from 1 to 2. And
you know what? Hang on. Credit to Working Man, only a 52% drop. That's a strong hold these days.
Yep. The Chosen, Last Supper Part 2, debuted at 3.
Snow White beaten by The Last Supper Part 2. Just got to say that out loud.
Take that, atheists that work for Disney. That fell from 2 to 4. Woman in the Yard fell from 4 to 5. Death of a Unicorn, which I did not end up reviewing because excuse, crying. Oh, actually, I remember what the excuse was. Yeah. Chris had a family issue, so he was not able to make the podcast. So I never ended up talking about Death of a Unicorn or Black Bag. And then when they tried to reschedule, I'm like, no, guys, I fucking have a life and other shit to do. I can't, I blocked out a night for this. We're not doing it that night. I gave you an alternative. You can't do it then. I'm not doing this at all. So, I will say again, Death of a Unicorn was not as good as I wanted it to be. Still good. Still all right. I recommend if, when it comes on Max or whatever, but not quite the absurd satire that I wanted it to be. I really wanted to be a little bit more biting than it was, and it wasn't. So,
And the unicorn looks genuinely terrible.
Indeed. So anyway, that's Death of a Unicorn. The Chosen, Last Supper fell from 3 to 7. Hell of a Summer debuted at 8. The Friend jumped
went into wide release.
Yeah, went into wide release. So it jumped from 31 to 9. Captain America fell from 7 to 10.
As it should.
Okay, The Luckiest Man in America debuted at 16. A Nice Indian Boy debuted at 22. William Tell,
I wonder what
35.
movie he made.
Gazer 38, and When Fall is Coming 49, and that was the weekend that was worldwide. Ninja is number 2 with over $1 billion, getting close to $2 billion. Captain America, steep space in between.
Has one more week to enjoy being number 2. Minecraft is taking it over next week.
Yeah, it's at 412, which, we said it would die somewhere between 4 and 5, and that's about where it's going to die. So, good there. Still a gigantic
Huge flop.
flop for
Huge
Disney
bomb.
because when they actually report the budget for this thing, the entire budget, including marketing and all the reshoots and whatever, I think we talked about this at length. The reports where it had to make about $1 billion,
give or take,
to have made any money. It fell well short of that. So yeah, giant flop. Don't believe the hype. A Minecraft on the worldwide as of this recording at 313 million, and then again another giant drop.
Speaking of bombs for Disney, the second one, the fat man to the little boy, that is Brave New World, we have Snow White.
Everything I just said about Brave New World can be applied to Snow White, including the amount spent on it.
Except it's, multiplied by an order of magnitude greater to its failure than...
Dogman's at 134, Bridget Jones at 129, Mickey 17, 127. A Working Man is at 65, The Monkeys at 64, like I said before. There's a re-release of Parasite that's at 59. Here are the movies currently doing better than a re-release of Parasite.
Worse.
Worse. Den of Thieves at 57, One of Them Days at 51, which is currently available to stream. We have Flight Risk at 44, Companion at 36, Black Bag 34, Wolfman 34, Heart Eyes 32, Novocaine 32, Last Breath 23, Love Hurts, speaking of oof, at 17.
Woman in the Yard really struggling. That even had a slightly appropriate budget, but only 16 million is rough.
Well, you want to talk about struggling? Everything that it's funny. This has got the Top Gun Maverick, the Babylon issue, because everything that will be made with Minecraft wiped out by the Alto Knights. Currently at
I don't know what did
million.
they spend on that.
I'll tell you in a second. The Alto Knights.
Because if that's slightly more appropriately budgeted, it's not going to be that big a deal. But the
Alto Knights was budgeted at 50 million.
They can overcome that. Like Babylon this is one of the things about Babylon that you and I that thing's budget was almost $200 million.
Yeah. I saw the new trailer for Superman and I got a little weepy. Sue me.
You are weird.
Overly empathetic is the word you're looking for, dick.
I'll stick with weird.
So anyway, I've been beating on Alexis. I've been beating on Alexis for a while now about her obsession, religious as it might be, with James Gunn. And the reason I beat up on Alexis about the James Gunn thing is because you have to look at the Guardians of the Galaxy success in a, framed appropriately. He was under the guidance of Marvel, which was under the guidance of, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was the one guy that worked in corporate that's no longer there. And Kevin Feige was appropriately constrained and muzzled. So it was a whole other world. So then the next two movies come out, based on the one in a time. The second movie came out when everything was making $1 billion. And the third one was one of those few rays of light of the last 5 years. And it was rewarded by the fact that it was one of the few Marvel properties left that had any goodwill left.
Yeah.
So how much of that is James Gunn and how much of that is right product, right time, right amount of collaboration and constraints? Like, to say it's all James Gunn without looking at the rest of his filmography and his other tendencies. And, oh, by the way, his fucking Suicide Squad movie, which also bombed. Now, again, looking at it with appropriate context, it was 2021. It was day and date on Max. It was dark out. There were wolves after him. It was August. I get all that. There were other movies that were also released during that time period that did better than the Suicide Squad. So
also
again, if you want a comparison, Kong versus Godzilla made for that era at that time, day and date on Max, a fair shit ton of money. Didn't come even close to that. That was somewhere in the 400 or 500 millions, and the Suicide Squad didn't break 200 million. So stop handing me this shit that James Gunn, everything he touches turns to gold. He had one property. And people like Peacemaker, but as I tried to tell her when we talked about Snow White, TV is different than movies.
A lot.
the way things are presented, the way things are constructed, the way things are developed was a way different animal on television and an expectation on television than there is in theatrical exhibition. It's an apples to oranges comparison. So that's why I got so annoyed with her when she was like, "Oh, I want to compare whatever stupid show she was talking about that's on ABC, the Disney one, Once Upon a Time, I think it's called, to Snow White." And I was like, you can't compare the two of them. It's two different things, two different audiences. Same thing here with Peacemaker and Guardians of the Galaxy or this forthcoming Superman movie. That said, now that I've thrown out enough qualifiers to sink a fucking ship, I was a little worried about Superman when I first saw the teaser for it. I was one of those people that thinks this is like a fucking turducken. It's got way too many goddamn characters in it.
It might still wind up being that way, but the trailer work has been pretty good.
This second trailer is the only reason why I went on this tangent. The second trailer that I saw before the Minecraft movie has an extended opening sequence of Superman being healed from the sun and the robots and crypto and all that, and I actually was amused by that. Between the music, Superman is such a damaged property at this point that, restoring Superman to the heights of being aspirational, a character he should have always been. If you look back at the Donner Christopher Reeve movies, not so much Superman 3, as much as I love it, it's not that. And we don't talk about Superman 4, much like Bruno.
That's the truth.
Superman has not been aspirational since. If you think about it, Superman has not been aspirational since Superman 2, which was the second half of the first Superman movie.
I would argue 3, he's an aspirational character still. It manifests differently because it's him overcoming some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason everyone still loves the fight between Clark Kent and Superman in the junkyard, because that's still the core of Superman.
I think Superman 3 lacks, as an ardent Superman 3 defender, I think Superman 3 lacks the gravitas that Superman 1 and 2 have. So between the gravitas and the aspirational aspect of it, I think the first two Superman movies are the last time we saw the best Superman. I love the junkyard scene too, but that third movie is such a muddled mess of tone that it's hard for me to lump it in with the first two. But if you want to beat me and say it's close enough that if you want to make the comment he hasn't been aspirational since, fine. But I still think the best Superman we ever saw was the Donner cuts.
That's probably true.
That being said,
one of my brothers would fist fight you over that. He still thinks it's Man of Steel.
But I like Man of Steel, but
so did I.
And we talked at length about this, but I would not.
He's not actually Superman until the end of the movie.
Well, not only that, but he's not. I don't think he's an aspirational character.
Well, again, until the end. Like, Man of Steel is the journey of Kal-El into actually becoming Superman.
Sure.
Because there's a character arc that goes with that, and not just like the power.
Our defense of that movie was essentially, this is Superman learning to be Superman.
Yeah.
And struggling, and in Gavin's thing about it, because Gavin made the argument that this is not an aspirational Superman. This in many ways is not Superman. And I said this is a character piece about what if you gave somebody Superman powers, and how would that affect them mentally? How would that affect them spiritually? How would that affect them emotionally? And so we see his character struggling with all of those things to the very end of the movie, struggling and failing in a lot of ways. He has to kill Zod at the end, and it's like
and everybody got up in arms over that.
Oh, they got up in arms because Superman doesn't kill, which I don't give a fuck about. The point of that was, it was like, what do I do with these hands? I did what I thought was right in the moment, and I feel horrible about it. What am I supposed to do with this as a person? Which I think is an interesting concept to examine, except no one's fucking mature enough to have dealt with that. So you have me and you in the minority with Man of Steel.
Yeah.
But my point is, getting back to the James Gunn Superman, this is the first time since the Donner cuts that I've seen Superman look aspirational. Whether or not they fucking achieve that remains to be seen. We'll know in July.
Yep.
But from the trailer, and why I got weepy was because it was the first time I felt that since then. That's why.
Okay.
Now it didn't reach you that way. It's fine. I'm not really
Not
saying
even
it should have.
close, but okay.
Well, yay, you're like the anti-me in terms of empathy. So,
Well,
things are
you
gonna hit
could
us
do with a
differently.
little less. I could do with a
And
little more.
there you go. So the truth is somewhere in the middle of us. It's in that little spot between their boxes.
It's narrow, but it's there.
Yeah. So anyway, how did I get the fuck on Superman? How did we end up on Superman and James Gunn? Oh, I guess I was talking about the trailers and such.
It was that, and then you were like, a little bit of box office projection was.
Yeah. So yeah, looking forward. So I think this movie will make over $1 billion. That's usually with the 300 million weekend. That's how much it tracks. Not to mention, there is not a single movie coming up that's even close to competitive with Minecraft.
Where else will the antisocial, terminally online people go to throw popcorn at memes being dropped on the screen?
So the next movie that even comes close to it, just because it's a Marvel movie, is Thunderbolts. But
boy, I'm still thinking that's gonna really struggle.
Can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure.
It's just me and you. I don't have to wrestle you away from your girlfriend or anything. We can actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Thunderbolts is supposed to be this like celebration of the last 5 years of Marvel.
What a terrible. What are you celebrating?
Well, let's track this, okay? So we have Ghost, who was from an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie that you kept screaming, "This is a nothing movie," and tearing out you. When I met Robert, he had a full head of hair. After that podcast, granted, it was all audio, but I could see him do it. He pulled out all of his hair, screaming, "This is a nothing movie! It's a nothing movie."
I did not.
It was one of the rare fights that we've had where I was mad at you for that. But my point is,
it was a nothing movie. I'll stand by that assessment of it. Go back and rewatch it.
I remember that movie because I remember that fight. Do I remember Ghost? No, because she wasn't a memorable character. Ant-Man and the Wasp was one of those like forgettable Marvel movies in between Endgame and fucking Infinity War. And it was one of the few that didn't make $1 billion. Captain Marvel made $1 billion. Black Panther made $1 million. And somewhere in there is Ant-Man and the Wasp just kind of kicking rocks. Like I don't remember. I don't think it did poorly, but it didn't do those numbers.
Well, Black Panther comes out before Infinity War, if memory serves. Not long before it, but
it was that year.
Yeah, because it's Black. It was like Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War, Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, Endgame, if memory serves.
Mm-hmm. So Ant-Man and the Wasp is it's the same. It's the same year because you'll remember the stinger at the end of it. It comes out like I think July of that year. Because Infinity War was May. That was the big May release. And then July was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, and its stinger was Ant-Man and the Wasp will return and then a question mark.
Right, yeah. Well, everyone got dusted while Scott Lang was in the Quantumverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it came out July 6th of 2018, made $622 million. So that actually underperforms. That a $200 million budget.
So it was still profitable, but it wasn't.
But it should have done north of $700 million, and it didn't even do that much. My point being that so one of the characters in the Thunderbolts is Ghost. Ghost was the villain in that movie. No one is not in the 5 years since Endgame, and not in the 7 years since Ant-Man and the Wasp has anyone seen hide or hair of fucking Ghost. So there's one character nobody gives a shit about. Then we have...
Mark, they're still trying to make Yelena Belova a thing. They're still desperately trying. Nobody cares.
So we see her in Black Widow, and then she shows up again in Hawkeye,
which nobody saw.
She might be the only character that anyone gives a shit about of this entire, besides Bucky.
Bucky's it.
Okay.
You want to know the tier list for how much for the characters in this movie people care about?
Mm-hmm.
It's Bucky, it's David Harbour, and it's everybody else. That's it.
Here's the point that I'm trying to make. That's why I want to go through this one by one, if you'll let me. Okay. Because this is supposed to be the Avengers. Hear me out. The Avengers, the original 2012 one, was Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and 2 add-ons. And the Hulk. Okay? And it's supposed to be like, look, we did an Iron Man movie. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. Because we rushed the second one into production. We have Captain America. We have Thor. We have Black Widow, who we introduced in Iron Man 2. We have Hawkeye, who was there.
Briefly saw in Thor, but look, people like Jeremy Renner and people like the character, so we'll go with it.
Right. And so here's this big fuck-all celebration of these previous movies. Hooray! That's one of the reasons why the Avengers did as well as it did. It was a coming together of various characters from various movies in one super movie. That's what Thunderbolts is supposed to be. A coming together of various characters introduced in phases 4 and 5 post-Endgame, so 2020 and on. Except that this has been such an abysmal failure as I am trying to lay out. So we have this 7 fucking years ago with Ghost. Who cares? Then you have Taskmaster, who everyone fucking hated from Black Widow. You have Yelena, again from the same movie, but at least showed up again in Hawkeye.
And again, nobody likes Yelena. She's not like because her character was not destroyed the way that Taskmaster was.
Mm-hmm.
Going from woman to man in the suit, like you can clearly tell it's kind of bad filmmaking, but
the whole movie was so awful.
It really is. It's terrible. So people don't have that level of resentment for Yelena because she's not that dissimilar from her comic counterpart. She's not 1-to-1, but it's close enough-ish. But people don't like Yelena because all she is like bad Joss Whedon writing. It's a lot of fourth wall winks.
So then you have Red Guardian, who hasn't shown back up again since Black Widow, which I will remind people was 2020 fucking 1. So there's that. All right, Bucky's been in a bunch of things. He showed up in Brave New World. He was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What else was he in?
All the Captain America movies?
Well, no, I mean since then. Basically, he's a character this is one of the few characters that has at least been popping up here and there, so he hasn't been completely forgotten about. He's not.
Well, he's the only one of this group who has ties to when the movies didn't suck.
Good.
So
point.
that's more where we're getting him. Like, hey, remember Bucky? You like Bucky? Yeah, we kind of like Bucky.
And then I think that's and then John Walker from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who we haven't seen since. Okay, then they're introducing new characters like Sentry. So again, even if you're like, okay, we need to draw from, because let's go through this, right? Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Black Widow, The Eternals, Doctor Strange, Thor: Love and Thunder. You're
listing just a bunch of terrible movies.
Ant-Man Quantumania. Well, my point is, if you're trying to do Thunderbolts as a celebration of phases 4 and 5 of bringing together vast and sundry characters that we know and love, nobody from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, nobody from Thor: Love and Thunder.
Nobody cared about Wakanda Forever anyway. There's no decent characters there to bring
Nobody
in.
from Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Disappointment. Let's see.
Well, yeah, because everyone from that was some alteration, and we're not going to pay for Benedict Cumberbatch. We're not even going to pay for Wong to show up.
Nobody from Quantumania, the third Ant-Man
which
movie.
Nobody liked anyway, but still.
Well, that's neither here nor there. For the point that I'm trying to make is you have introduced no characters. Like half of this fucking team is from one movie.
Or one TV show. Like it's stupid.
And that's another thing. So now you have all these TV shows. You have Moon Knight, She-Hulk, you have Ms. Marvel, and none of these people are appearing in this fucking movie.
Because nobody cares about the IP that they were a part of.
They didn't know that when they wrote it. So, and
they should have.
So again, and even if you're trying to do like, well, this is the Suicide Squad thing, Mark. You don't understand. They're trying to do Suicide Squad here. Great. Where are all the villain characters from any of these movies besides Ghost from 7 years ago and Taskmaster from the stupid Black Widow movie that nobody cared about?
That nobody saw.
Wait, where's your hero? Where's Namor? Okay, or Namor? Where's he at? Here's the thing, and I hate to be this pedantic about it, but Thunderbolts was named after General Thunderbolt Ross. The Red Hulk, who was in the fucking Captain America movie we just saw.
Yep.
Would it not have made more sense to have him in this movie?
Mark, how can you ask this thing to make sense?
There's an iteration of Thunderbolts that is Red Hulk, Deadpool, Punisher, Agent Venom, I think U.S. Agent. I don't remember anymore. Like, I know they can't do Venom, but would it not have made more sense to make this look at least passingly familiar, like any iteration of the actual Thunderbolts? I know that's a rhetorical question. So,
Well, the probability of generating enough interest in those particular characters, moreover, trying to do anything actually comic accurate at this point is antithetical to the mission of whoever is behind the MCU.
so they failed. So they can't construct a team of characters anyone cares about. They can't construct characters that have even been popping up over the last 5 years. It's like
You can't get characters that people actually like
Bucky
or care
aside.
about
Bucky aside, who is the most recent character to show up in this movie?
in a movie.
Yeah, I'll take a movie or a television show because I think the answer is Yelena, right?
If you go or television show, because
Bucky
Yelena's in
aside.
Hawkeye.
Right.
Didn't what's her nuts? Because Julia Louis-Dreyfus is.
I don't
taking
care
affairs.
about her. Nobody else does either. I'm talking the actual heroes of this team.
I feel like Red Guardian was in something else.
I don't think so. Not since Black Widow.
You're probably right. Because John Walker hasn't been seen since Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right, which is 2021. Yelena hasn't been seen since Hawkeye, which was 2021.
And was a TV show nobody watched.
So,
But that probably is the last time any of these heroes, well, again, apart from Bucky in Brave New World, yeah.
right. So you're telling me that your big Avengers thing, your big Suicide Squad project,
Well, your big
is made
team-up
up
movie.
is
It's
made
the
up of
team-up
people
movie.
who haven't been seen for 4 years.
Pretty much.
This is such a monumental blunder in development.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know, like, you've been down on this for a while now, and I was like, well, I think Thunderbolts will be better. Then I saw who was in Thunderbolts, and I went, how'd you fuck this up? How do you not have characters that go, that have peppered the entire 5 years? Like we forgot what we were doing after 2021. And
They'd like to forget everything after 2021.
And I guess somebody would be saying, well, they had to go into development at some point, and at some point you gotta draw a hard line. So you drew it 4 years ago? That's it? That's the story here?
Well, they drew it 2 years ago and assumed things were going to go better.
Yeah, well, again, they should have reached back in. Like, I don't even know who you'd pull at this point, though. You can't, like, Moon Knight doesn't really fit in. She-Hulk doesn't really fit in. And they didn't establish good villains in either one of those shows.
To the extent that those shows had any degree of success. No.
Yeah.
Hang on. So, as a brief thought exercise, let's try to give these people a little grace.
Sure.
A little grace. Mark, the year of our Lord is 2020. It's the start of 2024.
Hang on.
Okay?
I'm pulling up the beginning of development with Thunderbolts, so we have at least a time frame to work through.
Yeah, so look that up first real fast.
Okay. Pre-production. In early September of 2022, Justin Kroll of Deadline Hollywood described the film as a spin-off for Belova because she was expected to lead the anti-hero team. Yada, yada, yada. By the end of September 22, journalists said Harrison Ford was Marvel's... Okay. God damn it. Somebody joined the... All right, so it looks like by the end of 2022, they were more or less developing this to be a movie they could actually release. And it was supposed... And I want to say this is another one that was supposed to be in 2024, but it was
probably
kicked to survive till 25.
So, hang on. So, here's how I'm going to pose our scenario here.
Mm-hmm.
It is the year of our Lord, end of 23, start of 24. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's realized that this is not going well. So, they come to you and me and they go, make the Thunderbolts. You have to draw on characters from this time period and your villain is Sentry.
Okay.
As a serious note, like, what do we do? If again, we're not doing the silly, Thor can show up, and we're not doing that. That's beyond that's beyond the parameters. They say make a Thunderbolts movie. You can draw from characters in the TV shows or the movies from from Phase 4 through about what they have now. What do we do? What is the roster that you and I hypothetically pitched to them as here's the characters?
So here's everything that was in phase 4, just so we have timing. Okay.
Yeah.
We have Black Widow, which is again already what they did. Shang-Chi.
Okay, hang on. Here's the other caveat I have to impose on us because this
Mm-hmm.
is what came. There was an editorial mandate. Yelena Belova has to be in charge.
Yeah, and I just read that. So let's for the sake of argument say this is supposed to, as I just read, they say make the Thunderbolts. Yelena has to be in it. She's the star. Fine.
Got it. Make every 5 minutes we've got a different executive coming up. Hey, make Yelena look strong.
We must do what Elaine is doing at all times. All right, so this was the Phase 4 roster of movies. Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And again, using this timeline, which somewhat makes me a little bit more sympathetic to the argument, we can't do anything past Wakanda Forever. It won't exist. So it's either characters that haven't been introduced yet or characters that existed up to the end of 2022, which brings us to these are the television series. WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk, which debuted October of 2022. So that's it. That's all we have to work with.
Yeah, again, that's all terrible. So hang on.
So you keep saying.
So this is why I said, like, they've tried this. They know it's not going well. We're going to try and redo it. We're going to try and retool it. So that's why I said end of 23.
Mm-hmm.
So what comes out between 2020, what comes out in 2023 / very early 24? If we're in the machinery of this, we know like the first 2 movies for 24, hypothetically.
Okay, so if you're asking what came out in 2023, working backwards, it was The Marvels, it was Guardians of the Galaxy, and Quantumania.
Okay. So what did we add meaningfully that we could draw from there if we're trying to put together a Thunderbolts team?
Nothing from Quantumania, for sure.
Okay.
From Guardians of the Galaxy, nothing.
Okay.
And then from the Marvels, nothing.
Okay. So we're still at this point.
Or from the Ms. Marvel TV show, which I really quickly want to see which TV shows.
Yeah, do the TV real fast.
Yeah, I got to look at Phase 5 now.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going MCU Phase 5. Okay. So the television shows that were just in 2023 in Phase 5 were, God damn it, Secret Invasion,
Nothing.
Loki Season 2, What If
Nothing.
Season 2,
Nothing.
and that's it.
Okay, so in theory, there might be something from Secret Invasion we could draw on, right? But What If is useless. Loki Season 2 is useless to us. Just useless.
Right.
So, again, I'm going to put forth the notion that whoever put this together, one, does it suck? Yes. Boy, does it suck. But given the parameters imposed on these people, well, let's go back for just a second here. Who from Shang-Chi is even remotely applicable?
Nobody. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Did they kill the one guy with the saw hand? I don't remember anymore.
Probably. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
The closest you could get is Shang-Chi's sister. Maybe.
Yeah,
if you want to break the bank, you can get a Ben Kingsley cameo.
Well, okay, so by that logic, you could have used Baron, and people were actually pissed that he's not on the Thunderbolts team, is Zemo.
Zemo's probably the only notable exclusion from this.
Yeah, so basically what you have to work with is Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow.
For the most part, yeah, because again, you're not getting anything out of Thor Love and Thunder. You're not, unless you want to do a Matt Damon cameo.
So throw Ghost out. Let's get rid of Ghost. Let's get rid of Taskmaster. Keep Yelena, keep Red Guardian. Keep John Walker.
Keep Bucky.
Keep Bucky. Add the Red Hulk and
you can't add Red Hulk
and Zemo.
Again, unfortunately, because of when this went in, you can't use Red Hulk.
I'm curious. Who else was in the Thunderbolts in the comics?
Oh, the Thunderbolts has a weird history.
The original Thunderbolts, Citizen, so Zemo, Goliath.
Which is a Hawkeye alter ego.
Or I will have said they in the movies it's Lawrence Fishburne. Beetle, Moonstone, Songbird, Techno, Hawkeye. Charcoal, Ogre, Amazon, Cyclone, Harrier. Okay, none of those people. Thunderbolts 2, Blizzard, Photon, Speed Demon, Radioactive Man, Nighthawk. Thunderbolts Army is a long list of people I'm not reading. Thunderbolts 3 is Green Goblin, Moonstone, Bullseye, Penance, Radioactive Man, Songbird, Swordsman, and Venom. Thunderbolts 4, Ant-Man, Black Widow, Paladin, Ghost, Headsman, Mr. X, Scourge, and Grizzly. Thunderbolts 5, Luke Cage. Could have used him. Crossbones.
I don't know. How are you feeling about non-Daredevil Netflix stuff? That seems a little sketchy.
I mean, it would be better than what they've done.
Not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, again, we have to pitch this and get them to
I
sign
think
off on it.
Crossbones is dead now, right?
I would assume, given that he blew up in Avengers 2.
Let's see. Juggernaut,
Civil War,
Hyperion, yeah. Okay, I'm not reading that. Okay, so this is the one that I was thinking of before. Red Hulk, Deadpool, Elektra, Punisher, Agent Venom, Red Leader, Mercy, and Ghost Rider. Hey, there is a Ghost Rider they could have used.
I don't know that you really want to try and tap into Robbie Reyes here.
So anyway, to wrap this up, because we've been at this a while now, we're almost at 2 hours. There were, I guess, the moral of this story is this is the least worst team they could cobble together from what they had, but what they had wasn't very good, and they probably shouldn't have done it.
Look, if you can't go back and like get someone that fans actually care about to attach to this, again, I think ideally you could probably, again, there's reasons you can't use Hawkeye beyond we're not sure what to do with the character, like Jeremy Renner getting run over by a snowcat. So he's a little bit unavailable, and we wish him well in his recovery. Like, we like Jeremy Renner here.
Well, again, so an all-villain team up like a Suicide Squad, you have to actually have villains that didn't die, and Marvel tends to kill all their villains. It's how Ghost ended up on. It's the one villain they didn't kill. That's how Ghost ended up on this team.
Pretty much the only one her and Zemo. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone else.
Again, they could have also gotten, Sharon Carter's niece.
Nobody cares about her.
What was she in fucking Falcon and the Winter Soldier? She's the bondsman, the Barry bondsman, the bald man.
The broker.
The broker, that's it.
Pretty sure it's broker.
Yeah. Ugh.
Hey, remember when she turned heel at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier and was never seen again? Remember that, Mark?
They did nothing with it. Yeah, I remember.
I'm not sad to not see Emily Van Cant act anymore, but you're setting up a thing that doesn't go anywhere. That's just bad structure.
All right. Ready to move on?
So yeah, my point there. Oh, and by the way, the brain trust that got together and set this up decided this group of normal people. You know how many of these people have powers, Mark?
I mean, John Walker has a super soldier serum, and Ghost has...
Did he actually? I can't remember. Did he actually take it near the end?
I believe he does, yes. He's got the super soldier serum.
Okay.
Ghost has powers, which I thought... I thought the whole thing with Ghost powers is that it was killing her.
It was, but then they stabilized them.
Okay, well, Taskmaster has a kind of power.
Has a suit more than anything else, and brain damage because autism
Bucky
is
has
special.
a super soldier serum and a special arm. Red Guardian has a super soldier serum.
Hang on, Guardian I don't know had serum. I know he's got something, but he has the discount bargain basement.
Yeah, they have a whole conversation about it in the trailer.
Again, he's got a bad version of it. He was part of preparation A through G. Is the equivalent of what he's got.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of people whose best power on the team outside of Ghost is that they can punch stuff really hard.
And what villain should this group of people take on, Mark?
This world's version of Superman.
I mean, the trailer shows him doing the release of energy that turns people into is wiping them out and leaving shadows on the ground where they were.
Sentry, the way they've done him in the trailers, looks like he's a character that would feel more at home in The Boys.
I'm gonna have to wait and yell about Sentry till we see what he actually looks like, and I don't mean physically. I mean like what is the character in that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know why people hate that character. I kind of like him, and it's worth having a discussion about. But at the moment, we'd be speculating a bit too much.
Yep. In any case, I wanted to have a conversation about how ridiculous this Thunderbolts team is, but whether or not it is successful remains to be seen. Odd choice for them to do an A24 type trailer for that movie. Like what? How many fucking kids are watching A24 movies?
Nobody knows what to do with Marvel. Doesn't know what they're doing at this point.
Yeah, they are definitely flailing about. All right, speaking of flailing about, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yep.
Told you. There is a stark divide in this movie between people who it is aimed at and who get the fact that it is largely meme reference the movie, and everybody else.
So, yeah, the critics score is, all critics is 48%. Verified audience.
There's not even a top critics tab for that.
Yeah. So all audience is 85, verified audience is 87. You know, it's a crowd pleaser. And the AI gave up on this movie as well.
Isn't that it right there?
Oh, you're right. Critical consensus. Ostensibly a film about celebrating creativity, a Minecraft movie provides a colorful sandbox for Jack Black and Jason Momoa to amusingly romp around, and a story curiously constructed from conventional building blocks. All right.
We're going to get a lot of those bad lines, aren't we?
Bilge Ibiri, which sounds like something you contract after a night at the Swinger Party House, from New York Magazine.
Speak from experience?
Your mother. Top critic. It feels like a small miracle that the resulting film is so funny, lively, and light on its feet.
This movie is not light on its feet. It's brief, but there's no nimbleness or energy to it in that respect, narratively.
Sarah Vincent of Sarah G. Vincent Views. Oh, now I wish Alexis was here. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons of Honor Among Thieves, which appeals to newcomers and its fan base alike.
That's a fair criticism of this movie. We just said, like, this is impenetrable if you're not deep in the meme culture.
Meme culture. And another one of those things I wish people would stop saying. Like,
it's the appropriate descriptor. Leave me alone.
Watching way too many YouTube videos lately. Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal, top critic.
Former newspaper.
Mr. Hess and his 5 screenwriters have mined childhood to craft something that's alive with imagination. It's not the most polished movie you'll see this year.
Boy, is that the truth.
But it's as cheerfully mad as a little kid's birthday party. We could use more of that.
I tend to dislike children's parties, which explains a lot of my reaction to this movie.
Oh my God. I'm so shocked you don't like children's parties.
Do you?
I mean,
Hang on. You have to exclude your own children from this.
Okay.
You like going to other children's parties?
I will answer the question, Your Honor, this way. If you'll accept this as my answer. One of the reasons why I stopped wanting, it was way too late by this point, but one of the reasons why I stopped wanting to work 12-hour shifts every other weekend was I missed out on too much of the kids' social affairs, which consisted largely of other kids' birthday parties. I love taking my kids to those things. Whether or not I liked them was immaterial. I liked being there. I liked being a part of it.
You like spending time with your kids doing things that they want to do. That's not the same.
Whatever, Your Honor. Best friend of the show, Whitney Seibold /film. A Minecraft movie is a broad slapstick farce without a hint of seriousness, reverence, or coolness. The most shocking thing, it's not terrible.
Fair enough. You know what? The
bar is low.
Hang on. In all seriousness, the fact that this movie is not like drenched in fourth wall winks and bad Deadpool knockoff dialogue is somewhat to be commended.
The future Xmas is Robert Winfrey, Carl LaHaye of Culture Mix. A Minecraft movie should be called a Minecraft movie. Dirty.
I would never date this woman, much less marry her.
This adaptation of the Minecraft video game series is a sloppy mishmash of incoherent action, bad jokes, and a messy plot. It's also a flimsy excuse for Jack Black to sing forgettable songs. Ma'am,
Yeah,
every movie he's in is that.
1, yes. 2, the songs in this movie are not necessary at all to anything. So it's more obvious.
One of the internet's original monsters, Doug Walker of Channel Awesome. Any section of this movie could be a fake trailer from Tropic Thunder.
You know what? I don't like Tropic Thunder, first of all, because I hate Ben Stiller and everything he does.
Mm.
But as a sentiment, boy, is he not wrong.
Lisa Leman of Culture S. Too much of Minecraft is going through the motions, rigidly replicating what other kids' movies or blockbusters have done.
I'm not sure that's true. I mean, again, the structure is lazy and the writing is like barely existent. But at that point, that's such a broad categorization of kids' movies that I don't think it's even helpful to point out.
The future Xmas is Robert Winfrey, Nell Minogue of Movie Mom, top critic. Its appreciation for the endless potential of imagination should be more likely to inspire viewers to try to play the game or even create their own.
Okay, does anyone come away from this thing inspired?
Not to play the game. The future Xmas is Alexis Hana, Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer.
Boys, you are just adding to the statistic that the pairing that is most likely to have a domestic violence.
I was reading a statistic recently that said the most amount of domestic violence is committed in lesbian relationships.
Yes.
Laugh out loud hard.
One, that's true.
Mm.
It's so weird that like the lowest I think gay men are the lowest on that list.
Yeah.
Then heterosexual married couples.
Listen, gay men don't always get along, but they're not beating the shit out of each other.
Well, that's because look, if you're gonna have a fight as a gay couple, as two men, you only do that once.
Yeah.
Then you know what's up.
Right.
But like you trying to marry Grace Randolph to Alexis, the cops are gonna be there every other week.
Doing Missouri's version of a Baker Act for both of them. Anyway, I've actually been watching her YouTube show. It's not bad. Her voice is a little grating, but whatever.
Her trailer reactions are better than her movie reviews.
Her entire YouTube presentation, of all the hot takes I've seen between Nerdrotic and some of these other guys, hers is not the most appalling I've seen as of late. She doesn't make me hate podcasting the way some of these other guys do. Anyway, this broad says Jack Black and Jason Momoa are the combination we didn't know we needed. A surprisingly fun and positive film that has lots of Easter eggs for Minecraft fans, but is also accessible for non-fans.
No.
So, also some great messages for all ages.
Look, again, this is not a good movie if you don't know the references. That's one of my big gripes with it. Like, there's just weird non sequiturs if you don't know what they're referencing. Like, hey, chicken jockey, if you get the reference, yay, Super Bowl. If you don't, like,
yeah,
you left.
Like when it happens and Jonas is like, and I'm like, he's like Popeye and he's like, I'm like, all right, I get it. I know, and I was like, all right, I guess I think I actually said to him, I'm like, I guess this is the thing that happens in the video game. He was like, yes. And I'm like, okay. This is really the last thing I say, and I'm going right into plugs. I cannot bring myself in any way, shape, or form, not even a modicum of anger at other things that bring people joy that are in any other way inoffensive. There's nothing wrong with the Minecraft movie in the great landscape of culture. This isn't harming anyone. This doesn't set us back. This isn't a lesbian domestic violence. It's not any of those things. It is a movie that the theatrical exhibition sorely needed. A hit. It's a crowd pleaser, And and things that make people happy were sorely lacking in our culture. So let's have this one and be okay with it. If we weren't reviewing these, would either of us have seen it? Probably me, because I would have brought my kids. But would you have seen it? Of course not. And it also wouldn't have. I don't think its existence would have bothered you either.
It would have bothered me. I can tell you why it would have bothered me.
Mm.
Because a couple of times, so every other Wednesday, basically, I do an activity.
I know where this is going. Okay, now I understand. Go ahead.
Every other Wednesday, give or take, I do an activity thing for boys ages 7 to 10 in my in my ward. This is what they have called me to do at the moment, and I've been doing it for a little over 2 years, and I'm still waiting for them to say, "Boy, you're not good at this," and here, do something else.
We must bring you away from the children. Why did you do something wrong? No, you're just terrible at this.
But I guess not. I'm seriously tempted to accost my bishop one of these days in church and be like, "You're gonna walk by me and go, 'How you doing?' I'm gonna go, 'I'm still with the primary kids. Can we talk? It's been 2 years. Have I not served my time?'"
have I displeased you, my lord?
No, that's a whole other. No, he's just a bishop.
Oh my God.
Sorry, that's intricacies of LDS structure. But the 7 to 9-year-olds, who I basically babysit for an hour every other week, they couldn't stop drawing Dog Man on the chalkboard when that movie came out.
That's funny.
What do you think's going to happen? It's not this Wednesday, it's next Wednesday. I might strangle one of them.
You were just going to have like a chorus of small children just yelling chicken jockey at you like weird zombies.
Yeah. So it still would have annoyed me, for the record.
Okay.
Even if I hadn't seen it.
Okay. Well, that aside, which is fine, but
look, do I think this is like going to be some grand turning point that shifts the culture of film negatively? Probably not. Could it? Yes. Well, do I think it will? Again, probably not. I wouldn't bet on it. Mark would, because he's a degenerate gambler.
Damn it. Well, speaking of degenerate gambling, this week on Radisson Broadcasting Network, no shows during the week. However, this Thursday, or during the middle of the week, this Thursday, Triple Feature is back to doing what Triple Feature does best, what I like to watch. So we're going to be looking into the beginnings of the history of the hard body, the raunchy sex comedy craze of the 80s.
This is Mark's favorite subgenre of film.
It really is. So I've been watching it since I was 5. So we're going right back to the beginning.
Which once again explains so much.
Really does. Right back to the beginning of the subgenre, looking at the actual movie Hard Bodies. 10, which was nominated for 2 Oscars and is surprisingly relevant today. Like, there's some shit being said in the movie 10, especially by Bo Derek, and then after that in that scene by Dudley Moore, which people are currently saying on TikTok. Like, yikes.
Yeah, but that should tell us everything about how far we've descended as a culture,
or have not moved at all. And then
because now it's being said on TikTok. It's worse.
Gotcha. And then Spring Break. So Hard Bodies 10 and Spring Break. I will be, in theory, joined by Dorian and Sean Comer. So we will talk about that. Last night, we had a switch in the schedule. Jesse couldn't make it to sessions. And Harry had been having mental health issues the previous week. So he was all right by Sunday. So we did the Insider show that we should have done on last Friday. We talked about John Cena's heel turn. We talked about...
which is great.
Yes. It's my favorite thing in wrestling right now. We talked about the triple threat match with CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and just that freaking Rollins. And we talked about Paul Heyman going back to his toxic ex, like all girls do. So there's that. We talked about House of Glory, City of Dreams, and we did our WrestleMania predictions. Next week
What are your predictions for that, by the way? I'm kind of curious.
Just really quick, I don't know between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. That's a pick 'em. I think CM Punk wins the triple threat, but Seth Rollins takes the pin. I think Tiffany Stratton beats Charlotte. I think
you're dreaming on that.
Everyone says that. I have hope.
Hey, Mark, look at me. What does Charlotte do to new talent that starts to get over the first time she works with them?
Tells them they're pretty girls.
This is a pattern back to forever with her. What'd she do to Becky? What'd she do to Toni Storm? What'd she do to Rhea Ripley the first time? Do you want me to go on?
Not particularly.
Much as I wish Charlotte wouldn't go on. Look, unless there's enough upsetness around how badly that promo segment they did on Friday to make them change that.
I heard that descended into them going into real shit.
Oh, God, it was terrible. So I'm sitting there covering this, and they're trying to do the promo off segment, and the crowd won't let Charlotte talk because this is Chicago, and they are sick of her, like most of us. So anytime she tries to talk, just gets booed, drowned in boos. Charlotte literally says, "Okay, Tiffany, I'll give you the last word," and just quits the promo, basically. So Tiffany then insults her, says Charlotte's battle with the crowd has been her biggest, and she's never gotten over on the crowd, which is largely true. Then she does the you can pretend to be the queen when you're out here, but outside of this, you're not the queen of anything. Charlotte then mocks Tiffany's voice by doing your voice is so high-pitched thing, I can't actually hear you, which is stupid and juvenile and came out of left field on this one. The fact that Tiffany's response to that is, you know what, when I'm done with you at WrestleMania, you're going to be just like you are in real life, alone. Because she just had her third divorce, did Charlotte Flair?
Oh, which wrestler did she divorce this time?
Andrade.
Oh, that's the one that's finally over?
That's apparently been over for a while, but news only really kind of got public about it a little bit ago.
Fair enough.
Again, third divorce, she is more likely to be...
Charlotte Flair can't keep a marriage together, I feel better about my own now.
Look, Charlotte's more likely to catch her dad's number of ex-spouses than she is his world title reigns.
All right, so to finish this, because I really would like to go to bed at some point, I think Logan Paul beats AJ Styles. I don't give a fuck about the girls' tag team match. Jade what the fuck is her name? Jade Cargill.
And Naomi.
And they beats Naomi. Rhea Ripley will get inserted into the girls' match, and she'll end up...
Oh, yeah, that's already a triple threat. I think they confirmed that tonight.
Okay. Yeah, so Rhea Ripley ends up being Io Sky and the other one.
Ooh, that's a bold pick. For the record, I actually think that goes to Bianca. They're heating her back up. They just had her break up with her tag team.
Her money match for SummerSlam is going to be her and Jade.
No. I disagree with that. Because hang on, if I think Bianca wins the belt here, and I do, she moves to Raw.
All right. So yeah, those were my predictions for WrestleMania. Anyway, Jesse and I will be doing a source material on Sunday. We will be doing a Joker focus one. We're going to look at Joker Killer Smile, The Joker Presents a Puzzle Box, and The Joker War. We're back with Warfare. It's going to scare the piss out of my daughter, which will be fun.
Your poor daughter.
Next week, what's her name? Alexis and I will review The Bear Season 3. The Bear finally turning into a show I actually really wanted it to be in the first place. And then kicking off WrestleMania weekend will be The West Wing Season 4.
The last one where Aaron Sorkin is involved. And please tell me you have started to realize the utter hollowness of that show. Like, it's well made in a lot of respects.
I haven't started watching Season 4 yet.
Well, look. This is something that I noticed about The West Wing when Aaron Sorkin's involved or when he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Sorkin is an idiot. Hang on. What he's good at is making stuff that sounds smart.
Right.
Like, he has so many times where a character kind of trails off in dialogue and then says something that's supposed to sound kind of profound if you're a 14-year-old on Tumblr. Like, Mr. President, we talk about enemies more than we used to, and we hit a sad note in the score.
Yeah.
And Martin Sheen looks a little bit introspective about that, and the world has moved.
So, you and I have been doing this now for a while. I mean, just on video. We've been doing this since June of 2021. That's when we did the big shift.
Yep.
And I have tried an uphill struggle at best to make this look as seamless and as professional looking as I possibly can, given the constraints that we have. I talk to you guys offline. I give you guys notes. I listen to them back, and I try to make notes for myself. I really try to improve this as much as I can. And I try to, elevate you guys as best as I can, coach you guys as best as I can, for what that's worth. I mean, I'm not the world's biggest.
You are Fit Finley, and we are a bunch of divas.
Sure. Boy, ain't that the truth? I have for two things. I have for years said that more than 4 people on a podcast of this kind is a waste of everyone's time. It doesn't sound good. People don't get a chance to talk. Like, I hate, not to knock them, but I always hated the MCU's Bleeding Edge for that reason, because he would try to just fill up the screen with people. So you waste 2 hours of your life to talk for 10 minutes total. Facts can confirm. We've gotten up to 5 people on here, and it is an exhausting night for me to try and get everyone to have time, make sure everyone feels heard and everyone is felt seen, to keep the podcast seamless, but to keep it lively. I think I'm fairly successful at it, but I also, am a professional listener and talker. I ran groups, for a period of my profession, so not that hard, but it is a skill that definitely needs to be finely tuned. I've watched, I guess it's the Nerdrotic guy, his Friday Night Tights thing, because he clips them like we do with our stuff. He clips them, and so does the Drinker. The Drinker tends to keep it to about 6 people. This guy had 10 on.
Yeah, Gary at Nerdrotic will do that.
The fuck? I've watched a few of these now. First of all, no one knows when they can talk because they don't want to talk over each other. And some of them, I swear to God, their entire contribution to any one conversation was, yeah, I agree. That's it. They're just literally sitting there in small Brady boxes of 10 on the screen. They're just looking pretty on camera. I don't know what the fuck they think they're doing. But that is exactly the opposite of what I think looks good on here. Like, you and I, just the 2 of us tonight. Sometimes we have Alexis. And either way, with the 3 of us, we can keep the conversation rousing and interesting, I think. I'm watching them, and other than stuff that Gary was saying and to a lesser extent Chris Gore, nobody else talked long enough or said anything interesting enough to have made the entire experience worthwhile. And I'm like, but that's the trend now. Just to kind of, my final point on this is, like, me over here kind of, keeping a tight rein on things and wanting to make this presentation look good. And I'm like, my competition, who has, zillion times more views than I do, 87 people on screen saying nothing. The fuck, Robert? The fuck?
It helps to have built an audience before you try to do a podcast and jam a bunch of people onto it. We're kind of doing it in reverse. Where it's like, hey, here's our podcast. Please come and help us build our audience that way. And that's just an uphill struggle, man. It really is.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you doing in the world?
Well, last thing on that one. Look, man, we both know if you got invited on one of those shows, even if it's one with like a bunch of people, you're going to show up just to be able to plug some of your stuff and your network to a much larger audience.
I've actually thought about that. Like, if I ever got invited on to Drinkers Chasers or Friday Night Tights or one of these other things where there's 87 of them, I couldn't give up the exposure to at least see this little thing right here where it says at Mark Rattledge on TikTok and Instagram. At least it would be there. People would see me, but it would be like my experience calling into the Michael Medved show. I'd have to take whatever thought, we did 30 minutes on bad parenting. I have to now take that kind of thing and condense it to 10 words and then sit there and look like this for the next 2 hours with my thing in front of me and hope that's enough.
Again, I don't know that you'd do it twice, but you would definitely do it at least once.
Could you imagine? I'm so much more like middle of the road and thoughtful than any of the people are on there who, whether they really feel this way or they're doing it because that's what the algorithm told them they needed to do. They're all having to listen to, Master Control. How, like, antithetical I would be on a show like that, because, like, I'd have widely different opinions than any one of those people. and so I'm not joining in the chorus of negativity that they do. So they like, oh, we've seen your podcast. You say some interesting things. Why don't you come on Drinkers Chasers? Right. this is going to go real well.
Well, in fairness to that, like you mentioned, the drinker doesn't like more than 6 people, and frequently it's 6 because one of them is going to be there for a short period of time.
Or his dog.
Well, you got to have the dog cam.
Sure.
Dude, if I had a dog that would just kind of like be hanging out and we could put a camera for it, I would make you do that because
the critical doggo.
Well, that's not what I would call it, but
no, that's his thing.
But no, I know that's his. Dude, he sold out of plushies for that thing. Like, of course you do it.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll just have my kids from now on. Like, they won't say anything. I'll just have a kid. They'll be like, It
really only works with animals. Otherwise, you get predator vibes.
Fair enough.
But no, like you totally go on Drinker's show, and yeah, you might disagree, but you'd get to like air your ideas and your thoughts, and that would be a thing.
Yeah, well, maybe someday if we have more than 100 views per show, they might notice me.
We'll see. I mean, crazier things have happened than that.
Yeah, like you doing a timely plug.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Go on, hostage taker.
All right. I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. Most recently, I covered WWE SmackDown on Friday, UFC on ESPN 65, which was a pretty terrible card, all things considered, on Saturday. I covered AEW Dynasty last night, Sunday. Mark?
Robert?
Did you watch Dynasty?
No, I was recording a podcast.
Okay. Allow me to present to you the finish to the main event.
This is going to be 3 hours of not talking about the movie.
Okay, no. Hang on. I'll be quick. I can be fairly quick about this. So, you have the Death Rider story, right?
Yeah.
You familiar with that?
Enough. I watched the last pay-per-view.
Okay. Not much has changed since the last pay-per-view. Jon Moxley is still the champion. He still has the briefcase. He is challenged by Swerve Strickland, who's pretty over, former champion. They have a long match. It's north of 20 minutes.
Yeah, this is the one where the Bucks showed up at the end.
Yeah. So, we get towards the end of this match, and it's been pretty good. Other people didn't care for it as much as I did. I actually was enjoying it. Thought the two worked well together, right amount of violence, a little bit overbooked by the end, but prior to the Bucks, I thought it was acceptable overbooking. You're going to get what you're going to get with this stuff, right? Then, as Swerve hits the Swerve Stomp on Jon Moxley, the lights go out. The lights come back on, and the Young Bucks, ratings cancer, are in the ring. They hit Swerve with an EVP trigger, and they leave. Swerve then lays on his back for 40 some odd seconds before Jon Moxley crawls to a cover. But like Booker T, whom he disparaged, Swerve has to lay there and take it. The 3 count, Moxley retains. People are not happy. And I kid you not, Tony Schiavone, at the end of this pay-per-view, says, tune into Dynamite to find out answers. Mark, I don't want to make the comparison. I don't want to say, boy, this looks familiar and sounds familiar, because I remember poor Tony Schiavone, soulless at gunpoint, at the end of many WCW pay-per-views, going, we're out of time, folks. Get the answers to this fuckery on Nitro. Apologies for my profanity. I don't want to make the comparison, but boy, are they just throwing it there.
Maybe I'm wrong about this, and it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. Please just get on with your plugs. But I feel like AEW either purposefully or accidentally fell ass backwards into WCW booking a long time ago.
You are not wrong.
Okay.
Anyway.
My eyes are crossing. Take me home.
I also host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. This episode was a look back, which I recorded that earlier today because I was so dead from a busy weekend by the time Dynasty wrapped that I just went to bed. I had nothing left to record. It's a review of UFC on ESPN 65, so my full thoughts on that. A preview of UFC 314 and some talk about news. I laugh at Conor McGregor's Bitcoin utterly failing to launch, not even generating enough money to actually become a thing. Kind of funny. You don't have to button yourself about Conor McGregor's fall from grace, sir. I will take all of that content. And a few other bits of news that came out. I sort of mentioned Aaron Pico signing with the UFC, which hasn't actually been confirmed. I should have been a bit more cautious about that. Anyway. I will not be covering UFC 314 live this Saturday. I have stuff Saturday that I couldn't reschedule, couldn't get around. So I'll have a report for it, but there will be no live coverage for 314. So give that a read when the time comes around. And yeah, next week is Warfare. So that'll be something.
It'd be nice to talk about an adult movie for a change.
We tried to launch that podcast. It was going to be called Harder Than It Looks, and you shut it down.
That's a lie. I would never shut down anything that says you do communist Disney propaganda. You do. Well, folks, communist Disney propaganda is the phrase that pays here on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network. So, for Comrade Winfrey, I'm currently cross-eyed. Be well, be safe, and behave.